There's something in the air at Mount Panorama. It's not the lack of oxygen that comes at altitude. It's not the palpable tension that seeps in when tasked with challenging Bathurst. No, it's the realization that for 3 teams and 6 drivers, 2 hours of survival lies between them and championship glory. With our stage set on our mountain as the backdrop, we're delighted to welcome you for one final time to RaceSpotTV and VCO Esports for the HyperX GT Sprint Series, where alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, I'm delighted to be joined by Terry Radford. And Terry, there's always something with championship finales, the tension, the excitement, the drama. You add to that the pantomime that is Mount Panorama. We're in for a treat here to close off the season.
Yeah, we absolutely are. 23 corners is going to separate those drivers from a championship. You got 2 hours, 2 different races will decide it. This is going to be exciting. We're seeing Mercedes come out here so far, put on a great show. Porsche sitting third so far. And if they watched the action yesterday from the 12 hours at Bathurst, granted it was a rainy mess in the first part of the race, Arjuna, but it was a beautiful race and it was a great finish at the end.
It was a rainy and foggy mess, and of course Bathurst usually at the start of a year in the Australian summer. Because of COVID-19, it's been moved, slightly less international flavor, but very much the same racing action. Let's walk you through the road that we've been on in a 2-part season through 2021 through 2022. We started off at a new track to IVRA competition at the Hungaroring in the fall. That season wrapped up at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. At the end of that, in the pro category, it was T3 Maniti that came out as your championship winners. They're looking to defend that crown here today in a circus that's taken us, well, across the globe. The United States, the land of the rising sun, but we now head to the land down under for what should be an exciting championship finale. Let's talk to you about the points then heading into 2 final 60-minute sprint races. It's T3 Motorsports by Maniti, over 140 points clear of Pearson's, and with a win being worth 100 points, the team that's taken 6 of the 10 wins available so far this season, Terry, they're looking very, very comfortable. Like I said, they've just got to survive.
Oh, absolutely, and coming to Bathurst isn't a place you just want to survive. I mean, granted, you have a lot of competition. I mean, I saw by Butt Kicker was racing really well in practice. Had a lot of speed, was able to get up front. The drivers were really playing. They were 1-2. But T3 Motorsports, well, they're right there as well. I mean, the guys who have been dominant so far are there, and they're there for a reason. I don't expect this to be any different, but with the race win being worth 100 points, you got two cracks at it. You just got to hope to survive if you're pure sim esports.
2nd through 4th close as well. We'll keep an eye on that championship fight, including the 5-star Motorsports Lamborghini that's currently sitting 10th in the practice. That's running down then through Pro-Am. We've got 3 categories, all split up with a unique point scoring system, and not just too dissimilar to how it's done in the real world. Here it's just 6 points, though, that splits Westwind Racing Esports and T3 Motorsports' Pro-Am machine as they look to try and get 2 championships on the board. Quasar Sim Racing, well, mathematically they're still in the mix, but it would take an almighty effort for them to be sprung into the equation. And when it's 6 points, that splits 2 teams. What goes through the mind of these teams, these drivers, Terry, heading into this final race of the campaign?
Push. Anytime you can see a championship, and like you talked about T3 Motorsports, they have an opportunity to sweep. They could go 1-2 and win both championships so far in the Pro-Am and in the other class. To come out and do that, survival is key, Arjuna. We're going to talk about that a lot here this afternoon. 23 corners. I don't want no part of it. I'm just glad I'm on the mic.
And one final class to talk about. It's the smallest one of them all, but it's been the World of Sim Racing and Oblivion Racing show in the AM category, where it is 13 points that splits those 2 teams. Don't count Oblivion Mount. They've looked quick in practice. In fact, quicker than the World of Sim Racing team. We'll see how things play out for them. V-Racer's the quickest of all the AM machines, in fact, mixing it up with the Pro machines, in fact, in the practice session that's coming to an end right now. But again, they are very much off the tail. We'll see if we have some good racing down through the rest of the class here, the smallest of them all. So it's been an exciting road so far in this 2021-2022 campaign, but it comes to a close. We've got prizes to talk about as well, not just for those racing, but for you watching. If you here joining us on this Sunday, wherever you are in the world, you can win a HyperX Streamer Starter Pack, which will get you on your road to pushing yourself a little bit more on Twitch. If you are watching across the season as well, the Easter Egg Challenge comes to a close with a Cloud Alpha wireless gaming headset, an Alloy Origins mechanical gaming keyboard, and a Pulsefire Haste gaming mouse, all up for grabs. So make sure you check the links in our description if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitch, head on over to RaceSpotTV to get those links for you as soon as you can. And with that said, it leads us into the Easter egg for today's race. We won't say too much about this, but if you know, you know. That's not a face to be trifled with. That is for sure. And just like that beast, we are at a mythical track. The Bathurst has been dubbed the Blue Hell by some that have visited here. One of the best tracks in the world. No, Lewis, it's not the best track in the world. Lewis McLeod, for those in the know. Me and Lewis have this debate all the time. But it is unrelenting. It is unforgiving. We don't have the fog. We don't have the rain that drivers yesterday in the 12 hours had to contend with. But as qualifying gets underway for the first of a two-part session, it's going to be about finding some clean air. You don't want draft necessarily over the top of the mountain. You just want the comfort to push all the way to the limit.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you come over to the top of this mountain, you start going through Frog Hollow, up to Solomon Park, through the S's to the Dipper, Forest Elbow. When you go down that hill, and you're coming all the way down like these drivers are at the very moment, you don't want to be having a whole lot of speed. You don't want to carry it down with the draft in front. You want to be able to have a smooth braking zone through these corners. This is going to be an interesting challenge once we put all the classes on this racetrack and drop the green flag, because if you catch a driver in the wrong spot here, you're setting yourself up for failure, because the speed difference, Arjuna, is just unparalleled. And this is not a track, we talked about it in pre-race, that you want to go too wide in very many places, and especially trying to set a passing spot up anywhere going up the mountain.
Look at this craziness as they dive their way into the chase. Because we're at altitude about 1,000 meters above sea level, turbo-powered cars tend to be at a bit of an advantage. So that would be especially the BMW and the Ferrari. So there is some balance of performance to be discussing as well. Of course, initially at the start of this spring season, an initial balance of performance was laid down by the race administration, but power cuts coming today for the BMW, the Ferrari, as well as the McLaren. 1.25% reduction on the BMW, 1.5 on the Ferrari. We'll see how those play out. Again, we'll talk about this two-part qualifying system. The top 5 in practice advance straight to qualifying 2. We're underway right now, though, for qualifying 1. And the most significant thing that I think we'll note is usually we'd see qualifying 2 be a little later in the day than qualifying 1. It means track temperatures drop a little bit, the conditions are just that little bit faster. However, today, because we are racing in the morning, the early morning at Bathurst, there you see just past 9 a.m. on iRacing day, the temperatures will only go up from here. And the points leader in the pro category saw that and realized, well, we're going to make sure we don't go out for qualifying 2. No lap time set in practice by T3 Motorsport by Maniti. They wanted to get the lap time on the board in this initial part of the session, Terry.
And that's smart, because the track, with the temperatures being a little bit lower than what we really thought it was going to be, I was under the impression coming into this that we were going to be setting it midday, that we would have a lot more heat on the track. But look how smooth. Look how smooth he is going down here. He's going down downhill, was able to really work each part of the track, was riding over the rumble strips, pushed it to the grass a little bit. There's a lot more grip. It's a lot cooler, but when the sun starts to peak down, it's going to become a slippery mess here, as that was the lap that he was done. I think he's good.
Well, I actually think he got a little bit too wide over Skyline. We saw him wibble-wobble his way through, maybe even push wide. He's backed out of that one. We'll go up again as he gives a bit of a tow to, I think that's the 273, excuse me, Josh Meyer behind the wheel. It's Big Tim Matsko on qualifying duties for your defending fall champions as we wait for the first of the lap times to come across the line and be put up onto the board. Again, it's not the longest of qualifying sessions with a lap as long as this, and with the tires going off as quick as they do, that 101 going to be straight down onto pit road and get some fresh boots on that car to go again. The 155, the 105 had gone 1 and 2, but it's Pearsons and Valorous that jump up with the 201.840. That is a blistering lap time on the board from Michael Avdoka, and it's good to see the Pro-Am machine going quite well as well in Valorous Motorsports. They're sitting in third. That's not bad. Remember, Pro, Am, they're all sharing the track at the same time. They're all gridded up by overall qualifying time, not split up by classes.
Yeah, that's going to make it even more challenging, because if you have a bobble like we just saw there, you're going to start behind a car that's a whole lot slower than you are. And granted, we do have, you talked about the horsepower reduction, but look at what the 117 did for Pure Sim Esports. A 2018, that's flying. That's absolutely flying around this track. It takes me that long just to walk to my garage because I'm slow.
Remember as well, the driver that qualifies in this session doesn't have to start race 1. However, each car must have both drivers start race 1 or race 2. We'll have a short interlude, about 15 minutes break between the two races today. We'll reverse the top 20 before we get underway for race 2. That's going to be craziness, and it means that I think qualifying here is important, Terry, to get the maximum points out of race number 1. You are by no means guaranteed to carve your way through the field in race number 2. Although, having said that, I'm amazed that T3 Motorsport by Maniti, the points leader, won race 1 at Charlotte, and then, you know, the Roval configuration, we know how crazy that can be, and then managed to carve their way through to take victory in race 2 again. So clearly, it's possible. You just need to be a little bit quicker than we are.
Yeah, I don't think they want to see us on the racetrack. I'd be head first in that wall, probably looking down the mountain on the wrong side of the track. I'd be over the fence and whatnot, but no, it's possible. I mean, we watched, obviously, NASCAR runs there a lot. Chase Elliott, Rex a couple years ago, drives through the field. It's very possible to make it happen at the Roval if you hit your braking points correctly. And that's the same thing here. With this track, you have two very distinctive long straights. I mean, one's going downhill, one's going uphill, but you carry a lot of speed through those. As you see right here, driver coming down, he's just carrying it all. Up to 175 was the speed we're getting here going into the corner. And this is Tim for T3 Motorsports carrying a ton of speed. This is the passing zone right here. And then you set yourself up for the next passing zone down here at the end of this straight. A lot of opportunities. It's just if you can be patient enough to make it happen.
Let's ride on board with Tim Matska for a lap here at Mount Panorama. Into turn 1, it's called Hell Corner. It's because if you get it wrong, you have a long old wait before you can do it again. Matska misses the apex, but pushes wide and gets onto the power nice and early. Then up and down through the mountain straight as you steel yourself for what lies ahead. The 6-kilometer run back to the start-finish line. It's a 174 meters from the lowest point in the track to the highest point. This is where it all starts. Access road on the left marks your braking zone. Cambers in initially and then cambers off as you work your way through Griffin's Bend and start that climb up the hill. Into the cutting where commitment is rewarded. Full throttle through the cutting and nice and early onto the brakes to the second part of the corner, and the points leader is around. You're not allowed to tow in qualifying. It's not going well for the 101. Oh my word! And that's probably qualifying done for the Lamborghini, and more chaos and carnage. Here we go. We're not in the race, but the stack-up has already commenced.
Well, and you talk about it. I hope we have a track map here so people can actually see how tight this is. It looks, you know, not as tight on the racetrack, but sitting here looking at the track map, when you go into the cutting, it's like dang near a 90-degree bend. Like, the moment you come into 3 and you go to bend for that little spot there, when you go in there and you go to the cutting, you go right around, and then you get this nice little bend all the way up from 5, 6, 7, and then it's a dang near a straight shot with just a little bit of a kink. You have a tiny kink going in from 9 to 10, a small bend into 11, 12, and then you get to the Essence and the Dipper. And then you have another 90-degree from 17 to 18 in Forrest's Elbow. This is a tough track. And for these drivers, especially for T3 Motorsports, who's trying to win, they're trying to win a championship in 2 classes. They're got the work cut out for them because right now they're sitting 2nd. And let's look on the board, and they're sitting 6th. That's a long way for the 6th place driver to even try to make up time. And if they continuously put down the times they're putting out, if Pure Sim Esports comes out here and lays down the 201s and dips away by a second or a second and a half, it's very challenging to make that time up if the driver in front of you consistently stays perfect or dang near perfect.
So the 101 is having to nurse that car all the way back around, coming down the top of the mountain right now, just coming through the Forest Elbow. They've got the opportunity, if they get that car back into the lane, into the box, I do believe they'll be allowed to get a fresh car to roll back onto track. The McLaren for the 117, just letting cars go on that run into the cutting, trying to be very, very careful as another bunch of cars work their way through. Damian Harris, I see in our YouTube chat, wondering why cars are coming full tilt. Well, that's the problem with that corner. It's a blind corner. If you don't have someone telling you there's a car stopped, there's only so much you can do. So I can understand the frustration from Maniti, but that's sometimes just the way the cookie crumbles. Over the top of the mountain comes Jeffrey Komel in the 177 for Ludens Racing. And now down the hill you plunge. This is where you really have got to be so precise. Through the S's into the dipper. Just look how close to the wall on the left he's going to get, because the closer to the left you are, the more speed you carry as you run yourself down into the forest elbow where the track falls away from you. It's always pushing you towards the Falcon wall on the outside, but that's nice and tidy from Colmer. Don't think this is necessarily going to be the fastest of laps for him, as he's got that McLaren coming up from behind and he's going to let them go again. At the top of the board, it is about a 10th that splits the top 2. It's a second that splits the top 7.
And you talk about blind corners, Arjuna. There's a ton of those at this track. You talk about Griffin's Bend, blind corner off exit. You right here with the 173. He's missed all the blind spots on this track so far. Coming out of Griffin's Bend's blind, into Four's blind, going into 18 is a blind corner. There's a lot of places on here. Coming out of Murray's corner, going down the main straight into Hell's Corner. That's another blind spot that once you get around that bend, you don't know what's on the other side. You have no idea. When you go through the Falcon area where the walls are painted of a really good tire. I sell plenty of those tires at work, but you can't see anything. The moment you make that bend, all you see is a blue wall, and you think you're clear on the other side, but you're not 100% sure. You don't know, and you make it around there as the 173 comes out. What a lap! What a lap!
Ronnie Nunez, who puts in a 201.764. Now the 101 has been able to get their fresh car. They're rolling up around the mountain once more, but time is really running down for Tim Matska to have any chance of putting himself in a good position to get the points on the board that the 101 needs. The door is being left open for the 117 to make it an exciting championship finale, at least in the GT3 Pro. Your Pro-Am pole position sitter right now is Valorous M Sport. Now do also remember that the cars that finish inside of the top 10 in this part of qualifying will advance to qualifying 2. They'll get another grouping of 15 odd minutes to put lap times on the board. Will they be important? We'll have to wait and see. There is the quite fetching Valorous M Sport machine as Emil Vimbo runs himself up into the mountain once more. I mentioned it earlier, it's a big old climb, it's a big old drop as well. And this is really a track where preparation gets rewarded. At 236 inside and in the mix with the pro cars. And I do like this, DJ, Terry, so confused. I've been commentating with so many different commentators last week or so. But I like that we have pro, we have pro-am, we have am. You have championship battles with people that are around your skill level using the iRacing iRating system. However, there's nothing that stops you from fighting on track with some of the best that sim racing has to offer. And so it gives confidence to some of these teams, some of these drivers that, yeah, they may not have the iRating, they may have the pace.
And I appreciate being put in the same breath as DJ, a very well-renowned commentator on the sim. And that honestly just made me wake up and be happy. I don't like being up this early, but here I am. But yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. No need to apologize. That's actually a well-said gesture. But it is awesome to see these cars out here on the exact same track at the same time, and to see the 236 from Valorous Esports. He's in the mix. He's right there. I mean, he's only about 0.6 of a second off of the pace to set the pole. And granted, he's coming in here, but he's there, and he's going to start third unless the 101 comes out or another driver goes out and jumps over. But the V racers, 333, good lap, 9th on the board. You look here at Gregory, great, not the best lap, but is really making some pace here. It kind of got a little off track right there, coming into that corner, but making some pace, and we'll see what he puts down here.
the Jason Tails racing team. That's a fun name, that's for sure. Not as good as the Pineapple Racing bunch that we had a couple of seasons ago in some of the other IVRA competitions. It is an improvement from Hoverson, and he jumps up to 10th on the board. So as it sits right now, that would be good enough for him to make it in towards qualifying 2. However, with checkered flag having dropped for this first part of qualifying, the pressure's on for the likes of T3 Motorsports. I believe they may be one of the last cars that we're waiting for to come across the line to set a lap time. The pressure's on for Big Tim. We've seen him compete at the top level of sim racing, but now, well, with the championship on the line, will he start from the very tail of the field? He's got to make sure he doesn't fall afoul of track limits with just one final corner to go, and it's a very, very deceptively tricky corner as Murray's. It's all about setting up on the entry to power through the exit nice and tidy for the Lamborghini. A 2:01.7 is the benchmark. It's a 2:02.4. Good enough to start in 4th position. He'll advance to qualifying 2 with the pressure on. Matska delivered.
Yeah, he actually did. And you look there. P1, P4. We talked about the pressure being set on their shoulders. And then P7 for the GT class. So they're there. Like, they're right in the mix. They have an opportunity to go. You see the 105 here for the 5-Star Motorsports driver in this beautiful Lamborghini. They're coming in. I thought they were ready to set the lap down.
Pure Sims up to the top with a 2:01.737. If, as we expect, the temperature rises, that might be the pole position at the death for Michael Avdoka in that McLaren. The margin between the top 2, well, 0.03 of a second. Qualifying 1 is done. Get set to do another 15-minute dash in qualifying 2. Well, we'll see the likes of Vector by RSR, the 2 RSR by Butt Kicker machines, 2 GT3 AM cars as well, World of Sim Racing and the Quasar machines, Ingersoll Rand and Osis machines as well, along with a newcomer to the series in the form of Maguyar's team. I think that's Frida Sport. Well, if I'm wrong, they can tell us in the chat because I've seen they pop themselves in there. Now I'm interested to see what the lap times are going to be comparable, because crucially, it's the World of Sim Racing GT3 AM car, Terry, that needs to make sure that they start in a decent enough position, because otherwise, Team Oblivion Racing, 15th on the board right now, might be in with a chance of making their life difficult through this first race of the I guess we'll call it the weekend.
Yeah, we can call it that. We'll go with that one here. Michael here. Just set down a very good lap on the last one. We talked about Pure Sim getting up there and taking the pole position. There's a lot of drivers in this one, and I honestly think that with the track temp being lower, they were able to really put some speed out there. But the way I watched these cars really charge the corners, get a great exit. I know this isn't NASCAR, but sometimes you can tribulate and you know, compare these two. Loose is fast, and there's a lot of loose, high-speed sections on this course that you can really make some time up just by gunning it off the exit. And when the track gets a little bit hotter, a little bit slicker, it gives you the opportunity to slide that rear end a little bit more. So the second part of qualifying here, I would really be interested to see, as we've had 18 on the board so far. We have many more that have to come in and go race. We got Luke coming out of pit lane. Christoph is coming out. These drivers can really make some time up, make some advantages. With the track temp going up, it's only, I think it's rose like 2 degrees so far. That's a big difference. That is a big difference, as it's 9:19 in the morning here in the sim, and the wind's starting to pick up as well. I've seen some gust. It got up to 24 kilometers per hour. That's a substantial difference in what we saw with 9 at the beginning of the show.
2 degrees Celsius would be about 0.2 of a second by common just trends in iRacing. So we'll see how it plays out. I saw a question from the Bonga Drums, Ruben Bonga, saying that cars are missing. Yeah, we're waiting for them in qualifying too. We'll get that underway in just a couple of moments' time. It's funny you talk about the NASCAR though. The great Australian races, the Bathurst 1000, and of course a new generation of V8 supercars on the horizon, was meant to to join the party, to become official midway through the V8 Supercars campaign this year. However, they were pushed back a further year. One of the chassis was shipped over to America, stripped of its rear wing, and Joey Logano was, I think it was Joey Logano, correct me if I'm wrong, someone, pictured testing at Watkins Glen with that new chassis. So there's always ways that NASCAR teams are trying to work around the testing restrictions. Qualifying 2 underway, though, 15 more minutes. Some drivers have lap times on the board. They're going to be a little bit more able to push in the early parts of this session. For those who are joining the track for the first time in qualifying, though, Terry, they've got to make sure they at least get a banker lap in before they start pushing at 10/10ths.
Yeah, they got to get their brakes. They got to get temps in their brakes. They have to get the speed in the tires. You want to get the cold tires heated up a little bit here. You have to learn where these spots are on the track, because the last time they were on it was their practice session. The practice was a little bit hotter than it was out here. It was pushing more towards what the race set would be, not qualifying early in the morning. So go out there, get temp, get all your fluids up, but you don't want to overdrive. You don't want to overdrive it. You don't want to overheat it. You want to spin the rear tires. You don't want to get them loose off exit. This is going to be fun because drivers are out on the track that have been fast, and then you have the tail end, right? You have the guys that did not make that lap from 19th on back: Jaden Dixon, Michael Lemon, Christoph, Albin, Carlos, Caesar. They were not out here in qualifying session 1. This is going to be fun, but I'm telling you, watch out for Christoph and that Mercedes. That's the one that I think if anybody's going to take the pole away from Pure Sim Esports, that's it. That's who's going to do it. He was very fast in practice.
Got 2 of the RSR by Buttkicker Mercedes. They're currently sandwiching the Vector by RSR, the green and black instead of the red and black. Very fetching liveries, of course. We've become familiar with them in GT3 cars as well, in the Lotus 79, in the Lionheart Retro Series. Opportunity for redemption as well for the Tim Matska Lamborghini, that T3 Motorsports car. Only 1 lap time actually set down on the board. Let's ride on board then with Caracas here at Mount Panorama and hope it goes better than with Tim Matska. So through Hell Corner, through turn 1, that's a little bit tidier, nice and close to the apex, but pushes a bit wider with that big boaty Mercedes and the grunt of the naturally aspirated engine as you run yourself down the 1 kilometer mountain straight. It's not a short straight, so make a mistake out of turn 1, you pay for it on the run down into Griffin's Bend. Spot that access road on the left-hand side. That's your braking zone as you begin to use gravity to work with you as you get on the anchors. Run yourself out wide over the curb as you run down into the cutting.
Yeah, fastest in practice, man. Fastest in practice was him. This is the guy. I think this is going to be a money run for him.
Working then through Quarry and now towards the places where commitment really starts to become key. Look how close to the wall you get before Sulman Park, and then all the way to the wall as you come towards McPhillamy. How close to the grass do you want to get? Now your descent starts down through Skyline, in through the S's, hit the curb, make sure the car doesn't lose its balance, commit down through the dipper. That wasn't as close to the wall as he could have been. Will compromise him all the way down into the Forest Elbow, where early on the brakes is good because it's downhill, the track falls away from you. You need the power down because it's a 2-kilometer sprint now out of the Forest Elbow through the Conrad Straight in towards the chase. It's a difficult braking zone if you're side by side, but in qualifying, no such drama. The Mercedes nice and tidy on the first sector, a little bit squirrely through the second sector, but that's sometimes what you need. Terry said it earlier, loose as fast as Carracker's got the machine he needs. Braking at the 100-meter boards, down through the chase. Doesn't clip the curb on the left-hand side, but uses the curb on the right side to rotate the car down in towards turn 23, Murray's corner. If you make a mistake here, well, that might just be your qualifying done. Want to avoid that curb on the inside, will upset the balance of the car. It's a 2:02.07. And straight away, intent being shown from the 169. If that was his banker lap time, Terry, well, there's more to come from that Mercedes.
I told you from the start that I circled him. I took my marker over here on my timing and said he's it. Like I was wondering if he was gonna go out there. Oh my goodness, the 101 just come out and just threw it on him. A 2:01.714. That's blistering. That is blistering. I thought that the Pure Sim Esports machine, the 117, was going to be the benchmark that the 169 had to pass, but the 101 said, no, I'm listening to y'all on the broadcast. Absolutely not. 101 is now the benchmark, and now look at him. Here goes the RSR by Butt Kicker machine. He's flying. He's flying, carrying way more speed through the corners here.
Seems like he might not be on the lap time, though, just based on the timing screen. On the ropes was the 101 in qualifying one. Really struggling. Has come out swinging. A haymaker landed. Just 200th clear of the 117. Here's the second of the RSR by Buttkick, because the 167. No lap time set for Michael Limon as he works himself up through the hill with an Audi behind him for company. Remember, 10 advance from qualifying one. We then took the fastest from the practice session as well to join us for this part of qualifying. So with 9 minutes left until the checkered flag drops, how many sets of tires do you have until you get there? How much time do you have? With a 2-minute lap, it's a mighty long time to get around. If you want to make sure you're starting a lap time as the checkered flag drops, you need to be out of pit lane with about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, but a lot of these drivers out here, oh man, these lap times are getting much faster than I anticipated them to get. We're seeing here, I'm looking at some of the pace that's happening is, let's see.
Well, I'll correct myself very quickly as well. Because we're using the heat session format here on iRacing to automatically invert the grid, it's a hard cutoff for qualifying. We saw this in dramatic fashion in the VCO Esports Racing World Cup earlier in January, where Redline were a little bit surprised by how things played out there. So keep that in mind. You need to make sure the lap time's set before the checker drops. Watch for Pure Sims. Pure Sims look like they're on a flyer, by the way, as we wait for the 167 to come across the line and set its lap time. 167, the 145, excuse me, goes up to 7th. Limon, well, that's not a great lap time. That's a 206. We'll see if there's something more to come from him. The 117, though, across the line. Now, where does he go? It's a 201.688. It's a pole position provisionally again. You said the lap times are getting faster. That McLaren with its fire-breathing nature, well, that's a great lap time. Still a long way to go in qualifying.
Like I said, I'm from the NASCAR world. Loose is fast. You hang that rear end out just a little bit, yank that wheel. You got to saw on it through these corners. You got a lot of opportunity to saw the wheel here. I mean, we talked about all the great passing places here, but if you think about coming up the hill, right? You think about going all the way up before you get to the Concord Straight going downhill. Well, there's a lot of chances that you can just gun it, get the back end kicked, and you go through Corey's Corner, Reed Park, Frog Hollow, McPhillamy Park, Skyline. Hang her out there. Really get on it. I mean, the S's, just not like Watkins. Glenn with the S's there, where you can really hang the throttle, hang the rear end out, pick up. You can pick up about a half a tenth of a second through that. You can't do that here, but you can get a little bit better off drive off in these S's. Because of one, they're different cars. These cars can handle a whole lot more speed than the NASCAR trucks or Xfinity or Cup. But you see these drivers coming down the hill, pinching the corners off. And that's the best way to do it. Ride the wall, hold it as tight as possible, because then you get a really straight exit off the corner. And that's exactly what that 117 did. And blistering time. Blistering time out here.
Do you remember the car or the driver that qualifies the car does not have to start race one? The only requirement is drivers must start, or both drivers for a car must start a race over the course of the weekend. T3 Motorsports and their trio of Lamborghinis all just giving each other a little bit of a draft to work their way forward. Pure Sims McLaren onto pit road. The 167 gets a lap time in. It's good enough for 6th on the board. We wait to see if anyone improves here. Valorous looks like they may be on a flyer in that 236 as into pit road comes one of the T3 Motorsports trio. There is Valorous across the line. It was not an improvement. They lost it in the final sector. The best of the 202.3. The last time around a 202.7. They lost about 4 tenths as the temperatures continue to climb. We are now up to 28 degrees track temperature. Again, those gusts of winds, which in a big, heavy car like this may not be the biggest thing, but They are very aero-dependent GT3 cars. They weren't initially meant to be like that, but that's just how they've gone. And especially over the top of the mountain where sometimes it can be very, very gusty, Terry, you do need to keep an eye out, you need to be mindful of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see this this Mercedes out here on the track at the 171. We're trying to see what the Vector machine can do out here on the racetrack. The 171, no lap time yet. Right now he's on his first attempt for a flyer lap. And wherever this puts him on the board, we talked about it with the RSR by butt kicker machine. You want to be somewhat up front on the board, because then that second lap you really can make a little bit more time up. You can kind of understand what the car is going to do, how you're going to react in the corners. But my biggest impression so far through the first 2 qualifying sessions is the Valorous M Sport, fifth, and what is supposed to be a slower car is still sitting in between the difference between 4 drivers to the top, 4 drivers to the bottom, that all could potentially have a huge ramification on this championship run.
Vernon showing this Vector by RSR car. No lap time on the board just yet for him as he closes on the brakes and then goes a bit deep into Murray's. I said it was deceptive. And just a little bit earlier, he'll at least get himself on the tower with a 2:03.048. It's up to 14th with just under 4 minutes left. Doesn't really have enough time to go around, get a fresh set of boots on that car and go again. So he's going to probably have to push for all he's worth. Talk about the 2 GT3 AM machines that I mentioned during our interlude between Q1 and Q2. World of Sim Racing and the Quasar team. I got myself mixed up. They did not advance the qualifying 2, but I just wonder for that World of Sim Racing car, Terry, you know, their main championship rival starting 22nd in the field. A World of Sim Racing should start 26th. Maybe they're just hoping to stay out of trouble. We know that we saw in qualifying that this track can get blocked. Now imagine when you throw 27 GT3 cars on the run up into the cutting. Might not be the worst call in the world for World of Sim Racing to just try and stay out of some trouble.
Yeah, I can't imagine it. I raced here one time, man. One time I got out here and raced on this track. I didn't make it through Griffin's Bend. I went straight. I went to hit the brakes. I locked them up, went right into the wall. I couldn't figure it out. Did some slow laps around the track just to kind of test and see what was doing. Ended up not being able to call that race that I wanted to come do, but I get my opportunity and make my first Bathurst official debut out here. But putting 27 machines on this track at the same time is going to be as interesting as anything I've ever watched. I mean, I called the Classic IndyCar Series last week, and that was super fun to see what they could do. But to see these bigger cars, you know, you have different body styles on them, different widths on the front end, very tight corners, very intriguing on what we could do as the 190 throws a good lap down, puts him in 11th place right there for the XBD Emerald Racing team. Very fantastic lap, but we take right here, believe we're with the 135 at the moment. Good run so far. Yep, we're with Roman Ortiz. Let's see what, very fast through Sector 2 here.
Audi's traditionally been very, very quick at the mountain, and if not for some confusion yesterday about regulations and whatnot, might have been the same thing as the 212, on their debut in the competition, jump up to 9th. That will be a good benchmark for them to build on if they enter again next season. Time is winding down. You finish the lap that you're on. You don't get another chance to go again. The 135, one final opportunity to improve on the lap time. The Ingersoll Rand Enosis team, to the one that's further down in the running order, did not participate, of course, in qualifying run. Turned in a little bit early into the chase. That might have just compromised him very slightly as he runs himself down into the final corner under the Armor All Bridge for the final time today. Oh well, and Race Control have just let us know that the 135 should not be on track, and so, well, that lap time's not going to count anyway because he ran himself a little bit wide, but we'll see if there's something that Race Control has to do to change things around. Now have T3 Motorsports by Maniti played some draft to try and get Tim Matska to the front of the field. A 201.714 is his last benchmark to beat. It's only a 201.790, but Ronnie Nunez loses the draft to punch his ticket to provisional pole.
Wow. Just wow. That's I know it doesn't seem like a ton, but that's a ton. He picked up a ton to a 101.59. That's clearing by a tenth, almost 2/10 clear of what we were able to do there. What a remarkable lap by Ronnie Nunez.
That is the teamwork on display. I'm just a bit surprised it wasn't the other way around, not giving the 101 the benefit of the draft. Qualifying is done, though. It's time for championship deciding races to get underway. The first of two 60-minute sprints here at the mountain is getting ready to grid up and go. 27 cars will take to Mount Panorama. This is how they will line up. Ronnie Nunez at the death puts it on pole position for T3 Motorsports by Maniti. Alongside is Pure Sims and the 117 driven by Michael Avdoka. Tim Matska, the points leader and the defending champion, sits inside of Christoph Karakas for the RSR by Buttkicker 169 Mercedes, while their fastest Pro-Am machine is Emo Vimbo with his Valorous Motorsports machine. Alongside him is the RSR by Buttkicker Mercedes. Behind them on row 4, it's 5-Star Motorsports' BMW and Visceral Esports' 196. The debutants up in 9th. They'll be delighted with a lap time from Jaden Dixon, with a second of the Visceral Esports' 145 car completing the top 10. Vector by RSR and 5-Star's Lamborghini share row number 6.
Yeah, you look down here at row number P13 with the XBD Emerald Racing Machine of Joseph. I'm not going to butcher last names here. T3 Motorsports by Minotti with, I would say, Joska Mari in 14th. Marco Silva for V Racers in 15th. Carlos Ruiz in 16th with Integrals Rand. Gregory down there. Yeah. Arjuna, you got this.
Yeah, this is an interesting lineup. The Quasar 225s there, along with the Jason Tails Racing car, then completing the top 20, Ingersoll's Rand and Luden's Racing's Audis. That's going to be interesting how they fare. Can be very, very twitchy. Will that 135 have some drama with race control as well? Westwood Racing Esports in the championship mix in Pro-Am. They start 21st alongside Oblivion Racing, 2 of the championship fighting cars. Eclipse Racing Team and a second Vector by RSR car share row number 12. Just 3 more cars to speak of. It's the Rusty Spatulas, IVRA Staples, along with the World of Sim Racing car and Quasar Sim Racing and the AM machines. 1 hour of utter chaos likely to get underway. It's going to be likely a 30-lap race with 1 mandatory pit stop to swap over the drivers, and getting some clean air might be very important here, Terry.
Absolutely is. I mean, you don't want to be too wide. You don't want to have a car in front of you. If you want to absolutely overtake this track and press as hard as you can, very challenging just to even make an opportunity to do anything possible. And for the T3 Motorsports, it's simple. You have to be up front. You have 2 of your drivers there. It's pace car is off, Arjuna. It's time to go Bathurst racing.
It's time for some chaos. The 135, the 134, I do believe, have got some sort of penalty from race control. We have to get into the start zone before we're underway. The field's in control of Ronnie Nunez for T3 Motorsports by Maniti. It's a long old hold as we get set to go racing. We wait for race control to let us know we're underway, and we're racing for race 11 in the spring for the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series. A nice tidy start at the front of the field. Ronnie Nunez leads from Michael Avdoka, Tristan Iglesias. Couple of bumps and bangs, 1 BMW off into the grass on the outside of Hell Corner, but we're all safe. We're tidally down in toward the mountain straight. Already under fire though comes Tristan Iglesias, taking the start duty away from Tim Matska, and for the race lead, they're side by side. Ronnie Nunez holds on as they start the climb up through the mountain.
Yeah, we start the climb up through here. We went through Griffin's Bend already, going to the cutting. A very intriguing start in the back. Race control said go. Everybody went from the tail on back, 5th on back, fans out 3 wide, going through Hell's Corner. BMW, tough start so far. It goes all the way to the back. That was Saul that went off the racing surface. Just a bad start. And for the driver there that had to come down pit lane, not a good start, because you start your race at a disadvantage. But what a start from the top 2, T3 and Pure Sim Esports, as they work down the mountain.
through Skyline for the very first time. Nice and tidy. Lamborghini, McLaren, Lamborghini, then 2 Mercedes. It was a good start from the RSR by butt kicker cars to slot into line. Valorous and Emil Vimbo into 6th, at least for the time being. Through the Forest Elbow and onto the Conrad Straight. Meguiar's Porsche might have had an issue in that 212. Jaden Dixon Creighton qualifying, but unfortunately the rear-ended nature of that Porsche is always going to be difficult. And well, there you go. It was through the Forest Elbow. It's so easy to do. The weight transfer down the hill. Got to be careful not to get more damage into that car. The 212 at the tail end of the field.
Yeah, we take a replay here. Look, you'll see when you talk about going through Forest Elbow, right when you make that transition, you see that little bit of a hump, right? As soon as he went to get over the hump just a tad bit, the back end kicks out. These cars have a different spring than what I'm used to. It's a very lower spring. It's a tighter spring in the rear. So the moment you put a bounce on it, the back end wants to really just float. It feels like you're on a sea or on a pontoon just out there. You catch a ripple and you're up, you're down real fast. That's how it felt right there, and the back end just couldn't handle it.
So lap 1 done, 29 still left to go. That 101 car is really feeling the pressure. Tristan Iglesias now sees that Mercedes driven by Benjamin Frigiero look to his outside as they work their way through, letting off on the throttle. It's another Mercedes that's having a look. That's the Vector by RSR machine on the 5-star Motorsports car. I think that BMW just letting them go on through, realizing that if you lose ground here, you're very likely to not be able to pick it back up. It's a 8-car breakaway at the front. Visceral Esports is 145, is 1.7 seconds back from the 155. They're being chased down by the 333. That V-Racers machine has clearly got a rocket ship under them. They're the best running of the GT3 AM cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And you don't see very many 3s in the top 10 at a place like this. But hey, there it is. Marco Silvia doing a great job in the BMW. And you talked about the speed reduction that we had here coming into this race between these machines. Not really affecting here because these cars handle a whole lot better in these tighter corners. You're able to really get on the gas. You're able to carry more throttle, carry more speed, and you're also able to turn a whole lot better. So when everybody else is having handling issues in the latter parts of this hour, this machine's still going to be just as fast because it's not going to tear them up as much. As we take a look here with Michael Luhmann and RSR by butt kicker Mercedes, great run so far, sitting in P5, 5-car breakaway. They're all within a half a second of one another from the race lead.
The word from pit road is the 212 got damaged from the start. We saw just how crazy and hectic it was as they shuffled their way on the exit of Hell Corner. There's a lot of bumping and banging. It seems as though that Porsche maybe just got caught out with it. Westwood Racing Esports have been off the road as well. Now that's significant because that is one of the Pro-Am machines fighting for the championship. They'll regain and now straight down to pit lane, it would seem, for that 287. What happens with them down into the chase? There's a car in front that has an issue and nowhere really to go. Left front suspension damage. And the 287 on the back foot immediately.
Well, I said this on the Real Sim Racing broadcast with Evan Pasoko, with the fact that a track like Dover is like a country song, right? Somebody's problem is your problem at the end, and you're not going to get your dog back, you're not going to get your girlfriend back, nothing. This track is presents the same problem. Somebody else makes a problem here, you don't have many opportunities to get around it. It's a very tight technical track. If somebody makes a mistake in front of you, you have two options. You're either A, going to go right into them, or you're going to drive off this surface. That was somebody's problem, and it looks like we have a machine back here that just got loose going through here, and that's awful.
We've had a big issue. The road is almost blocked at Skyline, and it was the Vector by RSR car that ran into the back of that 169 RSR by butt kicker machine. Not much that the green and black car could really do. The other Porsche involved, by the way, in that issue down at the chase was Chris Chatterton in the Eclipse Racing 263 that has given the impetus to the 273, I think it is, T3 Motorsports car, and that's a Mercedes. You say loose is fast, that's the danger with a loose race car. The Valorous M Sport machine gets on through, and that Vector by RSR car, I think it was Benjamin, Luke Burdenshaw, excuse me, had nowhere to go as the 169 came back across the track.
Back to what I was saying about the country song. This track is like a country song, and more like one of the older songs where everybody loves everybody. Right there, you don't love nobody. He touched the wall, got loose, hit the wall, tries to come back, regain, go to the right-hand side of this track. Not a smart move this early in the race. We're only 7 minutes in. Collects another machine, blind corner. You go over that hill, you think you're clear. You think the moment you touch the apex of that hill, you're going to come down into a clean track. You didn't. You did not come into a clean surface, and bam, just smacked. And now these other drivers are at a disadvantage because they come around that bend, and you have the machine still sitting there going. As we have a battle here to the outside, that's not what you want to do. You don't want to do that.
That 5-star BMW is dropping backward now into the clutches of that 333 V-Racers car that has Marco Silva on the hunt through the field. The 105, the sister 5-star car, it's a Lamborghini rather than a BMW. Don't usually tend to see that. Usually when a team enters two machines into a series, into a race, they'll be of the same make and manufacturer, just so that they can share data, they can share setup work as well. That Lamborghini really wants to get past the GT3 AM car, but they're all racing on the same bit of tarmac. The points are awarded for the overall points classification as well, not based on class finishing position. So that 333 has plenty to play for as down the hill once more they go. 3-car breakaway at the front. T3 Motorsports by Maniti has managed to release the pressure from that 167. Valorous M Sport, by virtue of that tumble on the entry into Skyline, has now dropped about 2.5 seconds back. On board with the 101 and the points leader as they run themselves down into the chase. This is where, knowing the points gap that this car has, patience is very much going to be rewarded there. They don't need to win this race, they just need to not lose this race, if you know what I mean.
No, you're absolutely right. But what a corner there coming into the chase, and the exit coming out of the chase there as they come into Murray's corner. That was impressive to see what the 101 could do. Got right on the back bumper of the Pure Sim Esports 117. Was able to apply a little pressure. You watched the back end kick out on the Pure Sim machine, but didn't really get him off the racing line. And that's what's going to be crucial in this race. If you think about this one right here. The more pressure you apply, you think of the great road racers in history, Franchitti, Allmendinger, Scott Dixon, Boris said. They always said you want to not overdrive, but you want to outbrake and make them think you're going to overdrive the corner, because then you push them out of the racing groove. Right there, the 101 tried it, didn't work. He regroups, he thinks about it again. They come through the top, they climb the mountain here, and applying more pressure, much faster here in Sector 2 of this racetrack. And this part could be crucial, Arjuna, as who's going to win this race.
And Mercedes is right on the tail again as the 173 tries to stretch its legs. Ronnie Nunez trying to pull away from the chasing pack behind before they get down to that 2-kilometer blast out of the elbow all the way down into the chase. It's a long old run, you're towing cars behind you. If you can break away, you've got the advantage to maybe try and pull away bit by bit as we work our way to 10 minutes complete in this race. Another 15 minutes or so and we'll enter into the pit stop window. The Mall might have a little bit of damage to the front of the car, but you can afford to brush the walls here and there as long as you don't compromise your top end speed too much. Aaron Ackles in the Quasar Sim Racing 225, by the way, has had a self-spin through the final corner. He's dropped down to 17th on track, 4th in the class as it stands right now. Impressive though to see it's not just the V-Racers 333 that's really putting the pressure on that 155 car, but Jason Tails Racing, that 345. Well, as I say that, they lose a spot to the 177, but two of the AM machines, running inside of the top 12 as we try and close off the season. As we look forward to the next season as well, it's very likely that some of these AM teams might not be AM when we roll around for the next edition of the HyperX GT Sprint Series.
You're absolutely right. A lot of these drivers might want to go up a class. They might want to go up here and run these very gorgeous machines. I don't know. I might want to come out here and run it too as we take a look on board with this 155 for the 5-star motorsports machines. That's Miles, I'm going to say Balkich, and maybe I'm right.
But the sister 5-star Lamborghini car not too impressed with Marco Silva's rather reactionary defense as they ran themselves up, and well, a flash of lights as well from the V-Racers car. Maybe not too impressed with Balkic, who I think got a little bit loose, well, not loose, a little bit tight, excuse me, through turn 1. You saw him miss the apex by almost a country mile there. That BMW is not handling the way that he wants it to. They're now 3 seconds back from Visceral Esports, and the 145 forming a bit of a train behind. Race lead sees the gap opened up to about 1.3 seconds, by the way. It's not yet out of drafting range, but the T3 Motorsports 173 is maybe only a lap or two away from being able to do that. Pure Sims's fire-breathing Lamborghini going to now be looking more in the rear view mirror than forwards as both the 101 and the 167 try and get the hurry on. One thing that, again, we talk about pit window, we're not talking about doing any fuel saving or anything. This is very much a sprint race. The pit window, very much like it is in real world GT sprint racing, Terry, is about doing the driver change and doing it in a time-effective way. And to that end, getting onto pit road here, it is not the easiest thing in the world. It's well, I don't want to say it's a series of S's, but it's definitely not a straight shot down onto the point where you hit the pit limiter.
No, it is not. You have to really be on your game, and you have to do it. You have 3 parts that's going to make up the pit stop, right? You're going to have the driver portion getting onto pit lane. You'll have the actual pit stop with the driver change, loading the car with fuel, packing it, or putting new boots on it, and then you're going to have the new driver coming in, getting up to speed, and getting the feel for the car getting off. You're on cold tires at that moment. You're going to have to work it off. It's a little easier getting off a pit lane because it's just a straight shot with a little bit of a bend in it, getting back on the track. But then you go straight to the mountain straight, right? You're going straight up. It's going to be a bit of a challenge. So to see some of these drivers here as the 117 is still getting hounded here by the 101, the race itself, it could play out on pit lane. We've seen it a ton of times, especially in this style of racing. I can't wait to see it, and I know we're maybe about 10 minutes away from starting to see a shift and what we're going to see setting us up for race 2 with an inverted field.
You always want to assume that in a team, 2 drivers are relatively even on pace, but from track to track, race to race, as preparation time varies, it's not always going to be the case. So sometimes you've got a quicker driver. When do you put them in? The driver that started this race, of course, will finish race 2. So it's all about just preparing your plan of attack in the right way. Remember, the top 20 will get inverted for race 2 of this final event of the season. On board with the Lamborghini as they come down through the Forest Elbow. Look like V-Racers very, very close to smacking themselves into the wall. If you're wondering, by the way, you're not hearing the dulcet tones of Ewan O'Leary and Nolan Rempel. Nolan Rempel busy with some real-world duties in motorsports. Ewan O'Leary has gone to support Zach Sweeney, fellow RaceSpotTV commentator, as Sweeney tries to get himself a fully funded seat in British Formula 4 for 2023. They're doing an on-site event at the University of Bolton in Manchester, England, commentated by fellow RaceSpotTV commentators Lewis McLeod and Cameron Rogers. So it's exciting times as Zach Sweeney tries to work himself into a real seat, but we're watching this HyperX GT Sprint Series. Do remember, we have season-long giveaways. We have race-specific giveaways as well. Look at the video description if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on VCO Esports' Twitch, head over to RaceSpotTV to get yourself entered for some prize packs provided by HyperX, the official gaming peripheral of the IVRA GT Sprint Series, excuse me. Still a 4-car fight behind that 5-star BMW. The more they fight as well, the more they're bringing in the likes of Ludens Racing, who last time around did lose a bit of ground, but that was more with the fighting. The Visceral Esports 196, for example, actually closed about half a second on those in front. So we always say the more you fight, the more time that you lose, and the more time that those behind you start to close the gap and make it even more of a party.
Yeah, and the V-Racers machine, the 333, I'm not going to say he's kind of holding up that 5-star motorsports machine, but it kind of is, because the 105 has been very strong through this part of the racetrack as they go downhill now. You know, he's been right there on the back bumper consistently, and you've pulled in the likes of these machines. Jason Tails racing, Luden's racing is coming up through the field. All of these drivers, and yes, the 333 is the AM leader, but is right there holding up the 105. Is still on pace to have a phenomenal race. I mean, he's the 333 is sitting 8th right now, and then you go all the way back to Jason Tails Racing in the 345 to find another AM machine. There's a lot of separation between them, but they're catching them. They're all catching them, closing in, making what is presumably one of the best battles going to be on this racing surface, because the leader of the T3 Motorsports by Minotti, he's gone. It's 2-second lead over the 117 in Pure Sims Racing.
It's come down as well. Luden's Racing have closed a full second. There's the lead. It's now up to 1.8 for the 173. Tristan Iglesias really starting to apply the pressure with those big old endurance headlights. You don't really need them. We don't start this race in the morning like you do in the Bathurst 12 hours, but sometimes intimidation. Maybe the bright headlights of that Lamborghini just intimidate that McLaren in front, but you're not going to intimidate Michael Avdoka, that's for sure. We see him plenty. World GT Championship on Mondays here on RaceSpotTV. He's a regular in the team that's, of course, owned by the multi-time British touring car champion Ash Sutton, who is out in action this weekend. I believe BTCC is racing at the Brands Hatch Indy circuit. Now, unfortunately, I don't get to watch the races. I haven't been able to find a good way to watch them. Living in the US, ITV, get on that, please. But BTCC, very, very exciting stuff, especially as they move forward with a new hybrid generation on the horizon. It's up to almost 2 seconds now. Once you lose the draft and you lose the toe down the almost 3.5 kilometers that we have of straights here at Mount Panorama, you start to feel that you just start slowing down. It's like an anchor dropping in some ways. And I'm looking at this battle for 7th on back and starting to agree with you, Terry, that I think the 105 probably has more pace than the 155, but the 333 has as much pace as the 155. And so with the BMW sort of being the cork in the bottle here, that V-Racer's car is not going to make it easy for Rune Jansen, who's behind the wheel of that Lamborghini, because ultimately he's not going to get past the BMW in front. So it's all about what happens here. Battle for second intensifies. Pure Sims. Oh, what's happened to Pure Sims? Pure Sims off the road into the wall. The championship fight over in the blink of an eye. The 101 very much has one hand on the championship. Let's have a look at it here. So side by side into the chase. It was Iglesias who had to send. And I'm going to put some of the blame there on Pure Sims for initially just trying to box the Lamborghini off the road, and from there it was a self-inflicted runoff into the grass. Michael Avdoka down on pit lane.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. We talked about this, right? This was the initial come in to this race. There's a lot of places on this course you don't want to be too wide. We just saw it. You don't want to do it. We also talked about, right, that the T3 Motorsports 101 at that very moment had an opportunity, had a major opportunity, and was putting pressure on the Pure Sim Esports machine. It was right there. Just continuously tried to force a mistake, and that's, granted, a lot of viewers out there might disagree with me when I say this. That was a forced error. You know, it's a baseball term, forced error at the moment. He drove it in, got the run, had the speed off exit of the corner, made the Pure Sims machine make the mistake and go wide. Once he went wide, game over. Went a little too wide, hits the grass, goes, but a battle for 6th on the racetrack. The 333 is still there, but the 105 with a five-star motorsports machine really made a run as we come down the mountain.
You're not going to get past into Skyline, though. That's just a simple fact of life. If you want to get the pass done, that BMW with its turbo grunt, yes, we've had the BOP, but BMWs clearly have enough in a straight line with the wing angles that they're being able to run to hold off the challenge. And that was a terrible exit from the 105 as well through the Forest Elbow. He's got to be a little bit more calculated in how he sets it up, maybe out of the elbow, maybe out of hell corner. Get the run, use the draft, try and make the move happen. It's frustrating, but that's what Bathurst is sometimes. It can be a frustrating place. The 196 Visceral Esports car gets past the Luden's Audi. Look how close that 333 gets under braked to the 155. Again, the AM class leader has got the same level of pace as the Pro machine in that BMW up front.
Oh, it sure does. I mean, that 333, the BMW is absolutely flying. It's just a ton of speed so far. But you have to look at it. He's also, I would say, at an advantage because I've driven the BMW around here and around a couple of the circuits. I find it to be much easier to drive and more fun. I think we can use that in a proper sentence. It's more fun to drive it than many other cars on this platform of iRacing because you just can carry so much more speed. You can really hustle the car around a track and a 23 turn road course that's up the hill, down the hill, through these S's, through all of these different tight corners, left and right handers. It's just gonna be it's so delightful to watch, and this 333 is just putting on a show, and he's battling two other machines that you would think would blow by him, Arjuna, but he's right there in the mix. It's so beautiful to see. Well, now they're not gonna make that one work. He's gone.
A small mistake, and not one but two cars will pounce over the top of the mountain. V-Racer's car drops back to 9th, and you expect as well the 5-star team might swap around the Lamborghini and the BMW as they're an almighty ways now behind the 145 Visceral Esports car. There's a look at the battle for second, though. The Mercedes has a look to the inside of the kink that leads into the chase, and Tristan Iglesias knows the championship is very much safe if he can survive. He'll let the Mercedes go on through. It is now Mikel Limon that jumps his way up to second. 3.3 though back from your race leader. 2 minutes away from the pit stop window opening for these machines. They won't be able to come in the next time around, I would think. For those probably 6th on back though, they are looking at the possibility of being able to pit next time by. And if you're in that hornet's nest of action, which is 6th on back, might not be the worst call in the world. I mean, I'm not saying that 5-star Motorsports BMW is really holding these cars up too much now, but if they fight a little bit more, if there's a little bit more action, if you're maybe that Luden's Racing Audi, for example, box now, get the undercut, get a driver in, get some fast lap times on the board, see where things end up.
No, I agree. You have to flip this around. You have to make a move. You'll have the split end of this race coming up very soon. You make the move. If you said 6th on back, you're about 10 seconds from the leader. That's a good opportunity to really make up some time. You have an opportunity to come in on pit lane and get your service. For 1st through 5th, they'll race one more lap around here, then they'll come down pit lane. And I do wonder, I'll go back to what you talked about just a little while ago with the faster drivers maybe sitting in the pit and the driver who started this race finish in race 2. The strategy is galore. You don't know who the faster driver was. None of us do. We don't know what they were doing on the track in their own single practices that they might have been doing throughout the week to prepare. If I was in here, I would possibly
we got
be
trouble.
there.
We've got trouble. The 135 Audi is spun, and whoa, that's close with 6 or 7 cars oncoming. He's going to finally get it spun around. Well, Connery Maddox somewhere is going to be fuming. You can only control so many things once you've spun yourself out. One of them being how you rejoin the track, and that was Roman Ortiz, I do believe, that has caused almighty chaos, and that is not just going to be a slap on the wrist from race control, likely to be a little bit more.
That's big F's in the chat for that one right there. As you take a look at what happened to the 135 coming down here, it just looks, he's around, tries to turn it. Here we go into the corner that's going to set up what makes him go around.
This is where the Audi gets very squirrely as well. It's very fast, and you're just on the curb, unsettles it, and now what? So he's toasted the rear end, that's for sure. You see the big puff of smoke. It's hard to do a 3-point turn. There goes your race leader. There goes 2nd, there goes 3rd. Now, the easiest thing to do would be to have a button that turns off traction control so that you could spin that car around. He clearly doesn't have that, so he's trying to do the world's slowest 100-point turn. This is unacceptable. Like, quite frankly, I know you're laughing, Terry, but I'm not laughing. No, I understand why you're laughing, but this is unacceptable. There's a reason why we have F3 boxes in iRacing. He takes out that Vector by RSR car. He causes some contact for his teammate as well. That he's going to be glad that this is the end of school party in some ways, because he's not going to have to think about that one for too long.
No, and I agree with you. It's completely unacceptable, but I've never heard somebody say the slowest 100-point turn in my life. I'm using that, Arjuna, and I'm going to credit you every time I use it because that was phenomenal. That made me almost spit my rowdy energy right there. I'm not going to lie to you. That was classic. But no, I had the same thing in a race about a week ago. A driver brings out an intentional yellow, comes out, we're racing at Kansas, spins it off the track, off the race surface. iRacing says no caution, you're good to go. Pulls it back on the track, brings the yellow out, and just messes up 5 other drivers' strategy. And it is uncalled for, because you think of the drivers that are in that accident, they were racing for something. They might have been not have been racing for a championship, but they're racing for their sponsors, they're racing for their team, they're racing for their self. And we just took it out. We take a battle here with the T3 Motorsports, the 273. Is having a great battle with the 333 right here. These 4 drivers in a dogfight before we come down pit road and pull this race into halves.
Yeah, pit window is open, but we haven't seen anyone within the leading portion of this race come down just yet. So as we get close to that 30-minute mark, maybe drivers starting to think about that. The Lamborghini for 5-star has gotten in front of the BMW. That's not entirely unexpected. The points leader in the Pro-Am class now sits in 8th position. And now I'm trying to do mental math in my head, but it's always somewhat difficult because you've got things really shaken up with some of these results. For example, the fact that the Westwood Racing Esports team is all the way down running 20th. They've managed to get back on track after their issue in the chase. They're 1 lap down, but they're points on the board. That's ultimately all they're looking for in their fight with this T3 Motorsports by Maniti car that was, I think it was 6 points coming into this race. The favor has very much swung the momentum in the direction of that Lamborghini, but things might change when we flip things around for race number 2, because remember, we invert the top 20. If things stand as they are, Westwood Racing Esports would be on pole position for race number 2.
No, in that battle in that class, it was just phenomenal to think, and we obviously didn't have the luxury of calling the other races, and shout out to RaceSpot for letting me and you come together and call this, but a 6-point battle coming into this race between that machine and the other machine down here. To have them separated by that small of a margin, the Westwood guys obviously started off in the chase and did not have fun. It was not a fun time. So now for T3 Motorsports, they pretty much secured the championship up there, sitting 3rd. That's secured. We believe. Like mental math, I'm not good at it. I lived in Bama for a while. Homeschool was not my friend, right? So secure the championship. Now you're trying to secure the championship in this class. As we see a driver coming down pit lane here, this is starting to open the window up, Arjuna. Who was faster? Did the T3 machine put their faster guy in 2nd, or is the fast guy on the track now?
That was Jason Tails Racing's 345. That's in his Visceral's 196 tries to get on past the V-Racers car that did not get a good launch off of the corner through turn number 1. Now, they're both getting about the same amount of tow from the car in front, but I think the V-Racers BMW maybe just slowing themselves down. There is not even a paper between the two of them. V-Racers hold on, but again, the fighting has let a bit of a gap build up in front of them. Here comes the Ludens Racing Audi. You don't want to be side by side into the cutting, and the Audi quite sensibly decides, you know what, I don't want any part of that one. That was Jeffrey Coleman saying, I tried, the door wasn't open wide enough. We got big gaps through the field. We are halfway through this race. 26 started. We're down though to just 22 out there and running. Of those on the lead lap, 19 on the lead lap, one lap down, and then the Maguiar's 212 with a 13-minute repair is 6 laps down on the field. We've also got the Vector by RSR 171, Luke Burdenshaw, who is 8 laps down and trying to salvage some points from this race. Here's that grouping for 2nd though on the track, as we wait to see if maybe they flip-flop around in the pit stop window. Don't forget the leader, 4 seconds clear. We haven't talked too much about Ronnie Nunez just yet. He's staying out there from what I can tell. Now, does Iglesias come in? No, he doesn't. These two stay out there. They've only got one more chance, though. They'll be pitting next time around to make sure they're inside of the pit window.
Yeah, absolutely. And man, we really had to talk about Ronnie Nunez because, well, he ain't had to race nobody. He's just been up there, 4-second gap. The best battle so far is looking back here in this top 5. You know, we just had Valerie M Sport come down to pit lane here in the 236, but the best battle so far we've been looking at it is the 167 and the 101. When the 101 got around, or the 167 got around the 101, he hasn't been able to pull away, and that was surprising as there's a car stopped there. Very smart to stay on the inside of there. But you have a lot more drivers coming down pit lane here. It's really starting to get busy and hectic down here.
Yeah, these are the cars that knew that they'd also only get one more chance. That was Chris Chatterton in the Eclipse Racing 263 that had spun in his Porsche. Significant front-end damage there. Only 9 cars are yet to box. T3 Motorsports' leading car, and its car that sits in third. You can already see as we grab a look at our RaceSpotTV replay, that car was has already been through the ringer. It's going to have a couple more trials as it works itself up through Griffin's Bend. Again, rear engine nature of this Porsche should help its traction, but maybe just a little too greedy on the throttle. Spins it around, and this time at least safely stays out of harm's way for the leaders as they came on through. Down through the elbow for the final time will be Le Mans and Iglesias in these 2 cars. The same will hold true for Ronnie Nunez further up through the field. Boujwin Kuster in the Visceral Esports car also yet to box, along with 5 stars' Lamborghini, the 105. V-Racers, they've left Marco Silva out there, along with Albin Spetz in the second Visceral Esports car, XPD, and the Rusty Spatulas, all those cars that did not pit so far in this pit window. But 31 seconds is the time that we're looking for in terms of driver change. You won't see tires, you won't see fuel, that's for sure, at least from what I understand. You might see a little bit of tire. Maybe a couple of cars take 1 or 2 tires. Anything longer than that will take more time than the driver change, I would guess. But so you saw the tricky pit entry. It's not simple. You're jinking left and right. You're on the brakes. You're on the throttle. You're back on the brakes to get onto the limiter. Looks like all of these cars, though, have navigated through there safely.
Yeah, and that's the challenge to Bathurst. You got to go around. You got to make a very tough pit entrance, and you got to hope that you don't do anything. Driver change in the 170 or the 123 or the 173. The 101's driver change is complete. 67. Now here we go. We're lifting the car up for the tires here. I believe the 173 is going to easily, hands down, clear it. You saw the 101 and the 167 make an adjustment here, was able to drive off and get, a little bit further or a little closer to that machine there. But nope, it's going to be the 173 and the 101. It's going to lead them off the pit lane.
And it was a big jump as well in pit road. It was a 34-second stop for RSR by Butt Kicker as Ted Lowendick jumps behind the wheel of the 167, maybe throwing in a little bit more fuel into that car. Of course, he's been the one pushing the tempo, trying to close on the car formerly piloted by Ronnie Nunez. I'm not even going to attempt that name because I'm not terrible, but I can butcher that name about 15 million different ways. So a couple of battles on the exit of pit road. 273 gets in front of the 196. The 5 stars BMW is now in the clutches of a familiar face in the form of V-Racers, but this time it's Nuno Costa that's hunting down Maximilian Fritz. Fritz, one of the stronger drivers that we've got here today. Look at the Hornet's Nest as well behind the 273 car. That Lamborghini for 5 Star Motorsports has cleared itself from the rest of the pack behind. It's T3 Motorsports' 273 that now sees Josh Meyer now. He qualified that car. That's why I got myself confused. So he's in. Robin Noberg behind him. Fritz, then Costa, Dustin Nazier, all in a little bit of a fight as they work their way through. V-Racers were getting word just hit the wall pretty hard, and you can see right front suspension damage for that car. Such a shame as well because Marco Costa was flying. Silva, was flying in the first section. Let's run ourselves on board through the cutting, just ride too much speed and pancakes it into the wall.
Oh my goodness, and you could hear the rear tires just starting to chatter and slide right there. a lot of speed, can't slow him down as good as you would think in the rear of that one, because you really have to be on the brakes and downshifting to kind of get it not to bounce. That's a tough, because he was running really, really well, pushed hard. That's the second driver in there, correct?
Yeah, so you wouldn't really have been yet up to rhythm, up to tempo.
Yeah, and just out of rhythm, out of sync. Takes you about a lap and a half, 2 laps to really get the heat in it, get the brakes warmed up. Oh, car's off the track in the back.
That was Joshua Lawrence, I do believe, who was off the track. Now, that's the Vector by RSR 171, so he's laps down. V Racers with their damage continue to struggle. I think they had a moment at Skyline as well. They'll pull that car down onto pit lane. Poor, I feel for him, because, you know, he's got a lot to live up to in that 333. The pace that was set in that first stint, you get in, not much practice, of course, because you've been watching on from the sidelines and qualifying as well. So unfortunate there for the 333. Here's what happened to that Vector by RSR car. Like I mentioned, they're running 25th out of 26. So already that car not looking too good. Loops it by himself. Now, does he keep it out of the wall? I think he might get away with that one.
We'll give him that one. I'll give him that one. But for the 333, you're right. You know, not a lot of practice in the car. Watched a ton. Saw the pace that it was having. It was in the top 5 for majority, or top 10 as well for majority of this race. Now you see the 273, the T3 Motorsports machine really starting to close some time in. I know, you know, about 17 and a half seconds from the race lead. The overall win here, but small victory. You know, you see that the 236 for Valorous M Sport, you have an opportunity. If something happens, this corner, this track is, you know, a self-correcting course. If you're going to get real corrected real fast if you step it out of line. And, well, if the 236 makes a mistake, the 273 is in a prime opportunity to go up there and take the class win.
Now, that 105 has dropped back very slightly in terms of pace, because it was a 1.5 second advantage about a lap and a half ago. It's now down to just 0.8 behind the 5-star BMW. Will try and get to the inside of the kink, and that's the danger. They ping-pong off one another, and oh my word, the 273 by the skin of its teeth holds on to a championship lead that would have flashed through the team's eyes. It's the Visceral Esports 196. Powered by Robin Noborg. It was Maximilian Fritz that had the look to the inside, and we might need a look from up above, because I think that there's not much more that Fritz could have done. Fritz was on the curb any more, and he would have pushed wide into that Visceral Esports car. Maybe it was that Visceral car pinching down. This will give us a much better look. Yep, I think that's pinching a little bit too hard.
Oh my gosh. Takes me back to Darlington in 2002, I do believe, with Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch. They're touching, gets a run. He's going to continuously be there. He wasn't having it at all. Pinched a little bit more. The 196 pinches down, gets him loose. And he was like, you know what? I'm already wrecking. I might as well take you with me. And he did. He took him with him.
To quote someone in the chat, that's new pants for Josh Meyer, for sure. Well, that's the championship in the blink of an eye. Remember, Westwood Racing, those were the two cars that came into this race, the 273 and the 287. They came into this race split by just 6 points in the favor of the 287. The 287 had an issue at that very same corner with a different car. It was the Eclipse Racing Porsche. It's given the advantage to the 273. But yeah, that in the blink of an eye, that could have been very different. For the race lead, it's closed up as well. It's down to 1.2. Rudy Knopfel, excuse me if I butchered that one. I'm sure I'll say it differently about a billion different times in the next hour and a half. But that 173, it's big Tim Matsko. We know Tim is one of the best that GT3 has to offer across the top level of sim racing. He has really reeled on in his teammate.
And I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that name, because if you're going to butcher it, I've got no shot with my education level. So you got the 173 here. You know, still a good. I think this is team working, right? I don't think that this is coincidental. And you know, you seeing Tim catch up here. That last time by put down a 2:04.0. There's a couple guys behind him. Emil Winbow and Vince Peters. throwing down 203.9s and 203.4s, two fast cars on the racing surface at the moment, is back here, and we are looking at the number at the 145 for Visceral Esports. That's the fastest guy on the track at this moment. So a lot of speed back here in the back of this pack. We talked about who was the drivers that were coming in the second stint of this race that has to start the second race, right? You put your fast guys in last, they start the next part of the race, they're fresh, they're ready to go, they understood the track, and then you put your guys in there, give them a cushion, give them a lead, make it happen.
Sorry, Emil Vimbo did the first half of this race.
Sure.
Now I need to go double check the regulations, because I think you are allowed to have just one driver do a race, but there, I believe, is given a 10-second penalty.
Take it. Take the 10-second penalty. He's out here blistering the field, man. He's up here. The 236 is flying. You know, he's up to fourth. That's impressive enough.
Wait, no, it's even more significant. It's the rule change. Oh my word, that's a jink, and that's a follow by Visceral's 145 as RSR by Buttkicker might lose 2 in the blink of an eye. Yep, and here comes the BMW with a lunge of their own on the Lamborghini. Ooh. That was aggressive into the grass, but they just about hold on. Here's a cutback from Vimbo. My word, 20 minutes to go. It's all kicking off. Vimbo holds off for now. This battle going to continue to rage on. It's the Visceral car that will try the up and under. Oh my word, just holds on to it.
Oh man, 17 minutes to go and they're out here flying like it's the last one. You know, this is a cutoff as well. You have to think, hey, they're putting it on the line out here for this spot. Third on back is really putting on a show as they're door-to-door. Side drafting really isn't going to work here, guys. As they continuously try to side draft, go door-to-door, take some air off of them. And then you got the RSR by Buttkicker machine. The 167's like, hey, don't take me out in your mess up here. Y'all do your own thing, but just leave me out of it. Let me go. I'd love to have a camera on his face right now. Just his eyes just wide. He's scared. He's like, they're about to wreck one another here.
So to clarify, you are allowed one event where you don't have to use 2 drivers. So I suspect for the 236, it's a sign-off for the season, and it's a sign-off in style. Emil Vimbo likely do the entirety of the 2 hours of racing by himself. Now, they do have to have a minimum pit stop time of 30 seconds. He is obliged with that rule. I don't think he'll be facing any further penalty for race 2 from what I can glean from a quick scamper through on the regulations. So that 236 is going to be one to watch for as he tries to charge through the field. Although if we continue to have racing like this, he's going to be one tired, sweaty man by the end of today's action.
Well, a comment in the chat said it's allowed to do races solo. The first race is without penalty. If you do more races solo, then you will have a 10-second stop and go in race 2. So we'll be curious to see if race 2, we see the 236 swap drivers there. Fast on the circuit right now, sitting P4, holds a half a second lead here over the RSR by Buttkicker machine. But this has just been the battle for the lead. You know what? We just had the battle back there for third and fourth. Let's throw the battle for the lead out there. Why don't we? With 15 minutes to go, Tim's already caught him. I think it's Rudy. I'm going to say Rudy.
Yeah,
Rudy,
let's go with that.
We'll go with Rudy, and if he corrects us, he corrects us. But the 2 Lambos up here ready to fight it out. Teammates amongst themselves.
Now, I don't think it's going to be too much of a fight. I think either it's going to be the message over the team radio, multi 101, 173, they'll swap that around as quickly as they can, or Matska just going to bide his time and let at least one victory go the way of the 173 this season. Now, from the comment in the chat, that's not the understanding that I have from the flick through of the rule book. I don't think there's any penalty in race 2 for what 236 is doing, as long as it's the first time this season that they're using that exception. So we'll wait and see. 15 minutes to go in race 1. We'll have a 15-minute break before race 2, and then we'll get underway for the final 60 minutes of this spring season of the HyperX GT Sprint Series. Down the hill they go once more. Matska not pushing the issue too much. RSR by Buttkicker's 167 in that battle for the final step of the podium has dropped off very slightly, but It could all change very, very quickly. Other than that, though, it's opened up. There's not too many battles going on. The only one that I'm seeing is maybe 12th position, where the Rusty Spatulas and the Oblivion racing cars are going at it. The 346 gets past the 213. That's an AM car getting past a Pro AM car. That is your AM class leader now. That the V Racers machine is all the way down in 19th position.
Yeah, this has been interesting to watch. As we see the battles go on up and down our ticker here. We start to attempt quick math in our head. I can only count money, can't count seconds. To see right now, you got the Rusty Spatulas. What a great name. It just takes me to SpongeBob with the moment we do it out here. So you got the Oblivion Racing doing a marvelous job here in 12th. With, I would say, a very gorgeous car. I'm a big fan of the front end of that Lambo there. Holding off the Rusty Spatulas in the 213, half second and growing. It's now over, about to be 0.7 of a second as they come down the Conrad straight.
Well, if we froze it as it is with Oblivion 12th and World of Sim Racing in 16th, the GT3 AM Championship would be tied on points heading into the final race of the season. It is basically winner takes all with these GT3 AM machines. There is that World of Sim Racing car, did not qualify, wanted to stay out of trouble. They've done so quite successfully. They need to get at least one position, though, to have a slight upper hand before we get that final race of the year. So T3 Motorsports up front, still no swap around there. You can see the damage to the 134 to that rear wing of the Audi. It's a distinctive look that we've seen many a time here at Mount Panorama. I think back to 2021, the iRacing Bathurst 12 Hours, where the only Audi that was pristine was the one that Max Verstappen and Enzo Benito drove without incident to the race victory. Every other Audi in the field had that exact same rear wing damage. Didn't seem to affect them too much. We'll see if the 351, though, is able to close on up. Again, though, I don't think you're going to see a lunge. If there's going to be a move, it's going to be coordinated. It might happen if there's a mistake from that 173 car. It doesn't look like it's forthcoming just yet, though. Nice and tidy. They're just minding their business, minding their P's and Q's. Don't want to bring anyone else into this battle.
Well, I don't know if we're paying attention much to the ticker, or the fans at home, if you're paying attention. Visceral Esports is making a charge. It's a little too late, right? A little too late here. It's dropping. Speed-wise for Vince Peters, 203.79. Absolutely flying. Wimbo, 203.84. You know, really putting it on them. Almost a second, close to a second difference. Gaining a lap there. Just continuously keeps putting down 203s. And has kept it going for as long as I've been looking over here at the live timing and scoring. We're about, 5 or 6 laps in, and has just consistently put down time. But with 10 minutes to go, we're not going to see a 5.5 second lunge unless these two T3 Motorsports machines start battling. Marco Silvia said he had a brush with the wall. Got the meatball flag, so tough break for him. I say we freeze it now, Arjuna. Let's have a tie going into the final race and really throw it on the line.
That would have been that V Racers car, that 333 that we saw that moment through the cutting, and that gave them the meatball. And then the couple of other excursions that they had after that. The Eclipse Racing Porsche wants no business with the race lead. He'll shortcut the drop down the hill and get out of harm's way. It was nice and tidy. Did not want to make sure. He wanted to make sure he had no part in fighting with the race leaders. It's closed up as well for Emil Wimbo in that Valor's M Sport 236, that Lamborghini. It really, really closed on the back bumper of that Visceral Esports 145 as they rolled themselves down through the mountain. Now, I can also tell you that Pure Sims, Steen Ledger is headed back out onto track, albeit down in 21st position. So he's outside of the invert range. They'll be starting 21st. If no one else encounters trouble, trouble though, looks like the Ludens Racing Audi, that 177, has dropped off on the back of the 196. I would suspect maybe some trouble for that Audi over the top of the mountain. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we are going to have to wait and see. We'll take a look at the replay here. as these drivers are trying to put it all on the line here. You know, we're super close to the end of this race, and the invert's going to be really, really important. Just loops it, carries a lot of speed. The 177, just barely backs at the wall. You know, a little bit of aerodynamic help never hurt anybody. Make that wing a little bit bowed, kind of curve her a little bit. Might pick up a little bit more, you know, turn in the center of the corner.
No harm, no foul. For the race lead, by the way, it was nice and tidy. Tim Matska's jumped to the front as the charge from Vince Peters in the Visceral Esports car continues to roll on. So a new race leader. We're also going to get a look at something that's happened then for Pure Sims, I do believe, as the Eclipse Racing car stays out of harm's way once more. That's nice and tidy for those cars coming on through. Now, this is that V-Racer's car, I do believe, so there's something else that has happened to Nuno Costa. It's that same point where they got the meatball earlier, and it's almost a mirror image deja vu. This time it's the right rear that pancakes itself into the wall. Disappointing way for that to end. Here's a look at what happened, the pass for the lead.
Yeah, and I think when they saw that Vince Peters was really starting to apply some pressure, has gotten it down to 4 seconds. Right, you have to make a difference. You saw that Tim was catching him. Tim was on the back bumper for a while, almost for 5 minutes, was sitting there on the back bumper. You got to let him go. You know, you can't let him get caught. And I'm sure you were right. Team orders over the radio. Listen, you got to move. It's 3.9 seconds. Visceral Esports is really making a charge along with Valorous M-Sport is coming up here. It's now 3.9 seconds, and it's chipping. It just continuously chips down. Last time by for Tim was a 2:04.9, 2:03.6, and 2:03.5 for the drivers behind him in third and fourth respectively. They're coming, Arjuna, but is it a little too late because they've got to make up almost a second and a half a lap to really get up there and put a really good charge on them, because we're winding them down to almost like 4 to go, I think, if my math's right here.
Yeah, no, I think 4 to go. I think you're concerned if you're the 173. You're not so concerned if you're the 101. A confirmation from Race Control, by the way, that the 236 is using its one exception, so they'll have no penalty in either race 1 or race 2. That's a good thing to know, especially heading into that full the 20-car invert that we've got coming up in just about 20 minutes time. I love myself a good invert. I love the way that it makes people push. But this is a place where you can push, you can brush the wall, as the 236 did. Got to be careful. Lap 1's going to be interesting, I think, as some of the faster cars try and work their way through the field.
Yeah, I thought this race was crazy, and I almost forgot about the invert going into this event. And then I was like, the moment you said it, I was like, oh, heck yeah. Like, this is going to get fun, because you're going to take the 101, presuming that he wins this race. We're speculating here, as it's now 3.3 seconds. Back to Visceral Esports in third. Put him back in 20th. You put him all the way back in the back and say, hey, your teammates, you got to start 19th to 20th. You got to drive through this field again. You got to make it work. And we saw the congestion on lap 1 of race 1. 3 wide, going in to Hell Corner. Cars driving off the track. It could happen, so whatever.
See if Valorous wants to try and get pulled forward, or if they're going to go for it. You'd think the wise thing to do would be to wait until you close on the 173 with that gap down to 3.3, but with 3 laps to go, it's one thing to catch, it is another thing to pass. A bit of lap traffic will play a bit of a factor. Battle going on as well for 13th on back. The Rusty Spatula see the Quasar 225. Aaron Ackles has had couple of spills today, but still on the road in that blue car with the red wheels as it chases down 213, being driven by Jan Zilakis with the Ingersoll Rand Enosis 134 behind. That's Carlos Ruiz. So it's a 2 Pro-Am cars and 1 Pro car that are fighting to be unlucky number 13. As Isaac Snyder, 30 minutes in pit lane, is going to try and roll the Vector by RSR car out onto track again. Not sure exactly why, to be honest, but I'm sure there's a method behind the madness. So it is 3 to go. That is confirmed as they work their way up the hill once more. It's down to 2.7. It's closing fast. They just got to make sure they're close enough on the final lap coming down into the forest elbow, because you give yourself a chance then, Terry. You don't want to really be too close through the mountain. It's really about making sure you get that launch off of the elbow, off the mountain, to try and lunge hopefully a little bit more cleanly than we saw with those two BMWs earlier into the kink.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you get down to the chase there, you want to be able to make the run, but you don't want to be too much of a run. You don't want to take an opportunity away from yourself. You know, the 145 has had pace all race long. The second driver comes in, puts even more pace in that car, is driving it up to the front of the field. So if you can set yourself up, if I'm the 236 here, I'm going to continuously let the 145 stay in front to see if he can catch P2. You know, he's 2.2 seconds away from 2. He's 3 seconds, a full 3 seconds from the race lead here. It gives him an opportunity to just follow in the draft. Follow in the tow that you're getting here. See what kind of pace you can get off of that machine. We could work a little bit more, have a little bit of a friendly rivalry. I know they're not teammates, but treat it like you're a teammate. We're coming down to 2 to go here with 3 minutes on the board. They come through Murray's corner here for one of the final times of this race 1 here. You can see the leaders, so Juna, you can see them. You're starting to smell their toe. You're starting to get a little bit of a thing there. It's now the gap, 0.8 of a second to P2 for Mr. 145.
Really closing bit by bit. Last time by 9/10 gain. Matska lost out a bunch of ground with, I think, some lap traffic over the mountain that really cost him some time, so he's not run away like he would have wanted to. Valorous being brought forward by the 145. It's still up for grabs. The bigger the target gets in your windshield, the harder you push. It's just the way that racing drivers are. You're always looking to get what you can, even with just 2 laps to go and a podium spot on the line. The reality is as well, if that 145 car backed off even just 0.5% of a percent, 236 is ready to pounce. Battle for 13th is somewhat stagnated. Not really too much going on there. It's all eyes focused forward. 1.8 seconds as they climb down the mountain for the penultimate time.
Yeah, absolutely. And climbing down this mountain, tires are a little bit more worn down. We take an onboard camera with Vince Peters. This BMW has come to life. It's absolutely come to life. The Vince Peters and Emil Wimbo have thrown down 203 since we've changed drivers, since we put fresh boots on it. You see the draft, you see the leaders. You have an opportunity. Make it count. You're going to come down to the white flag very soon. We're coming down here, about to go into the chase. So once they get out of the chase here, then you start putting yourself in that position. Do I have a shot? Is this opportunity real? And I think it's just as real as it's ever going to get. It's that time really got good, really good through Sector 2 and Sector 3 here.
It's not good enough, though. It's still going to be 1.2 as they come to the stripe, where the white flag's in hand for Barney the Flagman. There he goes, vigorously waving it around. Now, Matska might be playing the team game as well here, giving the tow to the 173, helping them to run themselves down the 3.5 odd kilometers of straights that we've got here at Mount Panorama. It's 1 second, though, between the 173, between the 145. It's going to be an almighty send through the mountain for Vince Peters if he wants to be close enough heading down into the chase for the final time.
He gained 0.9 of a second through that last lap. Can he do it again? But he's going to need more. He has to find at least 2 more tenths to be on the back bumper and maybe go door to door going through the chase. If he can't get that coming through the mountain here, there's no opportunity when he comes through Forest Elbow and Conrad Straight. You're not going to have the chance. It's that time he's going to get a good tow. It's not going to happen. The T3 Motorsports machines, great draft, great tow through there. Oh, car on the wall.
That was Vimbo pushing as hard as he could. Now he's got 8.5 seconds back. He's just got to nurse that Lamborghini down the mountain, through the chase, and across the start-finish line. His chance of a podium out of the window. It's all now about the exit that the 173 can find. What purchase does it have on its tires as they roll themselves down through the Forest Elbow for one final time? It's 0.5 second between each of the top 3 as they have some lap traffic to think about as well. What a race this has been, the penultimate one of the season. It's the points leader that's on top with just a couple of corners to go. If you'd watched qualifying, you saw the pressure on the shoulders of Tim Matska. You would have thought, well, would they crumble? No such concerns. They worked themselves through safely. That V-Racer's car almost cuts off the path of the 145. We'll have one final corner to have a lunge, to have a look. Tim Matska might even give the lead over to the 173 car, so it won't be 7 wins in 11 races. It will be 6 wins in 11 races for the 101. But it's a T3 Motorsport by Maniti win, their 7th win of the campaign as a crew. What a race. It sets up a championship finale that will be one to behold. Maybe not so much in the GT3 Pro class, but our Pro-Am, our Am categories will be mighty tight, and we'll get confirmation of how the points are looking and all the cars are across the line. Mount Panorama never disappoints. When you add the championship intrigue in there as well, there's a tension in the air that is palpable. Some cars rose to that pressure.
Yeah, it was the T3 Motorsports by Manati. They showed up to play. We saw with Tim, we thought you can't put more pressure on somebody. You come into the qualifying, in our opinion, we didn't think that really was all that. We thought for sure, he would go out there, set the pole. Did not. P3, put a P3 time on the board. But for his teammate, come out, took it. The 173 did what we expected from qualifying here to the race set, and just did a phenomenal job. Granted, some might say that the win right there was, just a pure respect, and he just let him go there. Yeah, what was the point? You give your teammate the win there, give him some points, put him more into a championship run to maybe take more of a podium here in sweeping. And max points is what the team wanted. That's what they got.
It's all about the hunt as they tried to close on the 169 RSR by Buttkicker car. I do believe that gap might have actually closed on up. Let's grab a look at the race results. Unofficial, but not expecting race control to have much to say. It's the 173 that takes victory. I don't want to say gifted by Tim Matska, but that's somewhat unracing driver-like for a driver to pull aside. But at least it was a teammate that took the victory. 7 wins in 11 races for T3 Motorsport by Maniti, although now it is split across 2 teams. Vince Peters was charging hard, got within 7/10 of the lead, but will settle in that Visceral Esports car for a podium position behind him. Emil Vimbo, the fastest of the Pro-Am cars, driving all by himself. He's going to be a tired old man when the checkered flag flies for race number 2. Ted Lowendick for RSR by Buttkicker, the only of their surviving cars inside of the top 10, with Josh Meyer in the 273 building a championship advantage over the Westwood Racing Esports team inside of that Pro-Am category. 5-star 7th and 8th, with Visceral 9th and Ludens Racing Audi completing the top 10. And then down in 11th, you had the XPD 190, while the fastest of your GT3 AM cars was the Oblivion Racing Lamborghini. They finished 12th, and as we believe, will tie up the GT3 AM standings heading into the final 60 minutes of action. Difficult race 1 for Aaron Ackles and the Quasar Sim Racing 225. They're in 13th, with the Ingersoll Rand 134 behind them. 15th goes to the Rusty Spatulas, World of Sim Racing in 16th. And for Jason Tails Racing, a long pit stop for them, 60 seconds, dropped them outside of contending for maybe even the AM class honors. Then one lap down, it was the Westwood Racing Esports car. Came into this race in the lead of the Pro-Am Championship, but an issue for another car through the chase. Collected their Audi. They finished 18th, with V-Racers looking impressive in stint number 1. Nuno Costa and Cold Tires maybe getting caught out there through the cutting. Drops them down to 19th, while starting on our inverted pole position for race number 2 will be Chris Chatterton in the Eclipse Racing Team car, who really struggled in race 1, hoping to be a little bit cleaner to make sure we don't have chaos in race number 2. Steam Ledger for Pure Sims, they're going to be heartbroken, down in 21st position. Michael Avdoka, a slightly uncharacteristic self-mistake for him, while Chris Van Der Nest for the Meguiars Team Friday Sport 212 on their debut in this IVRA HyperX GT Sprint competition. Took damage on the start of the race, and then through the elbow, that damage reared its head and they spun themselves around. Vector by RSR, the second of the Ingersoll Rand machines, as well as Vector by RSR, RSR by Buttkicker, and the Quasar Sim Racing team rounds out the 27. You see plenty of those RSR cars there in the background. So we get 15 minutes for the drivers to settle their nerves, to understand what the championship situation is before we do it all again with the 20-car invert to close off the season. Terry, thoughts on race number 1?
Just phenomenal. You saw so much action from the drop of the green flag. A ton of drivers putting it out on the line. You saw a championship won, in our opinion, with the T3 Motorsports team going 1-2. That was the opportunity they needed with the other machines having issues. That was done. Right. And now you have the GT, the Pro and the AM series. They have to go and they have to fight it to the end. So all of that is going to have to work. It's going to have to do. We're going to take a look here in just a second at the points. I'm sure before we close in and do this, this is huge. And race 2 is going to be even crazier because of this invert. So very excited.
Let's see if we can grab a look at the points before we have a quick chat with maybe some of our winners from race number 1. So it is 8. It is the 101 that is now, I think, assured of victory in the class. Now, the Pro-Am is going to be a close one. It's just under 50 points between the 273 and the 287, but watch out for them as well. Do you also know just how many of the Pro-Am cars are up there in front of Pro machines? So that is somewhat significant. Now, the World of Sim Racing and the Oblivion Racing team, my math was correct. They are tied on points. This is where, if you are a racing driver and you're not a little bit excited, you're not a racing driver. If you're a team principal, you're a team manager, whatever you want to call yourself, and you're not nervous, well, you're not invested enough.
I'm nervous, and I'm broadcast. I'm commentating this, right? So, 2 drivers, 2 different teams have an opportunity to go win it. You're tied. You're doing it. T3 Motorsports locked it up. The 101 eschewing. There's no chance. That's it. That's your champion. You have an opportunity with the T3 Motorsports in the Pro-Am or the 280 and the 287. That could flip flop. Depends on what happens here. So that's an opportunity that we could see the fight. And then it's going to be an all-out, drag-out brawl between the 346 and the 351.
I see a comment in the chat about how these standings are not correct because they give points for overall finish. These points are factoring the overall positions from what we understand. Now, there might be errors, but I think the large stories, at least for the championship, are what we care about. That's what matters. Now, let's get the chance to talk to a man on solo effort today, doing double duty, pulling 2 drivers' effort. We've got the 236. We've got Emil Vimbo. Emil, talk to us about that race. It looks like you were pushing very, very hard, maybe a bit too hard at the very finish.
Yeah. It was mostly quite a lonely race because I don't know, I was missing a little bit of speed in the beginning versus the very top guys, but it's not something that bothers me too much because they're pro cars and I'm a Pro-Am entry, so I lost the draft to them and was maybe 3 seconds back after the RSR car crashed on like lap 2 or 3. And then that crash caused, or like built a gap for me behind. So most of the race was just running alone, trying not to crash on the mountain. Then had a decent fight with this early car, and I'm not sure if the RSR car was involved much in the fight. But yeah, speed was good, car felt good. So yeah, happy with the driving mostly, apart from that one corner on the last lap. Well, I just had to verify that the walls were just as hard here as they were in Charlotte, which I can confirm they are.
well, and you say that you didn't have, you weren't so concerned about those in front because they were pro cars, but clearly what you showed today is you've got, the type of speed to be fighting up there in the mix with the likes of them. I mean, look back on the season for you and that 236 team. What's been your reflection on how 2022 has started for you?
Good speed, but I guess it's been mostly me making mistakes, ruining a lot of opportunities to score very good points. So, but I didn't ruin it for myself this time, so almost did. But not quite.
Hey, racing drivers taking accountability. What is this? I love it. Well, we'll let you go. We'll let you get a bit of a break before you're back up for another hour of action. Great run in race 1. Can't wait to see what you do in this inverted race that lies ahead of us.
Yeah, see ya.
That was Emo Vimbo who joins us. Now let's go over to the 101 where we find Tim Matska, who had a lot of pressure in qualifying. Let's start with that. Tim, I mean, couple of issues, couple of moments, and then you had to put the lap in right at the death.
Not sure what you're talking about. I didn't see anything. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, was not ideal. Yeah, there's no other way to put it. I just messed up a bit. Yeah, well, but it was okay. P3, not perfect, but we were up there somewhere. So I was glad I could somewhat turn it around. It wasn't great, but it was okay.
Well, and you did manage to bounce back from that, so it wasn't such a bad thing. And now with the way that race 1 went, you provisionally confirmed as champions, back-to-back fall and spring/winter. Talk to me about that very end of the race. I don't think it's in a racing driver's nature to give up a win like most people do.
No, not necessarily. But I exited the pits behind him, and then we didn't really need the extra points, so it was just, using brains basically, and very obvious that if possible, that we keep the order. And then he went for a late move on the last lap. Obviously, he just got me there. Couldn't have done anything else, I felt like, and he got the win on track, so all good. No, jokes aside. No, it just was the obvious thing to do, I think. If you there's big discussions about team orders. I feel like, especially in GT racing, it's different than in Formula Sport. And if you have 2 cars up there, then, or like if you somehow got 2 cars up there, I think you have the right to use that to your advantage, because why not? It's not the easiest thing of the world to have 2 cars in P1 and 2, and if you have, then you can make use of it. And of course, not block. We don't block or anything. We just drafted us a bit. That's it, I think. Can be annoying for the P3 guy, surely, but we've all been in that position as well. And as long as nothing unfair happens on track, I think it's fine.
Well, your excuse and your reasoning is a lot better than what I heard from a driver during the IRX All-Star Invitational, so I'll accept it. Good luck for race 2. Hopefully you guys enjoy the carnage of working through the field. We'll talk to you after the race.
Thank you, Arjuna. Have fun.
That was Tim Matska from the T3 Motorsport by Maniti. And now let's chat with the winners in GT3 AM, Team Oblivion Racing. And let's not talk about race 1, Vitor. Let's talk about race 2. Tied on points for the championship. What's the mindset for you guys with 60 minutes left to go?
Yeah, well, hello guys. It's nice to be here. I missed out on the opportunity to be interviewed on the first ever round. So yeah, it's nice to be here. Well, my mindset, we were actually thinking about strategy and everything, about should we go forward, should we stay back? It's just keep the car on track, and what comes. And yeah, well, let's just do our best, keep the car on track. I think we have the pace to pass at least the 351. Let's see if they surprise us or not. Maybe they were sandbagging. We don't know.
Well, and I'll ask about your season as well, because the thing that stands out to me with both you and the 351 World of Sim Racing team is the fact that you've got more points than many of the Pro and the Pro-Am cars. What's been the key to your success? Has it been staying clean and being consistent? And does the reverse grid help you as well?
Well, we actually, I speak from our side. I haven't been paying much attention to the other guys, honestly. I speak from our side. We actually missed out on reverse grids for like 1 or 2 rounds, like in a row. At least the first round of the round of the like at Okayama, for example. But that was more like on the pro team and the EM team, like making a decision there, like team orders, sort of in a way. But yeah, I think the 351 and the other guys had way more opportunities to be on reverse grids, and that kind of put us in the position that we are today. Also, a few mistakes. Well, especially the one that stands out is the one on Long Beach where I was leading the race, and after taking a pro car out, and yeah, I then screwed up and got into the wall, and that was race over for us. I think the championship wouldn't be as tight if there weren't like a few mistakes, especially from my side. I can speak from myself. But yeah, we just, you know, let's see what this race brings. You know, there's lots of carnage usually in the I know this is not a good way to say it, but there's usually lots of fast cars behind us on reverse grids. So, you know, we'll just try and let them go as fast as possible, and just, you know, be able to sniff the guys ahead, and when the track is clear, just put the laps down and try and catch them at the end.
Well, the past is in the past. All you can do is look forward. 60 minutes of action. Good luck. We'll see how things play out, Vitor.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. I hope to see you soon.
Vitor Brass, as part of the Oblivion Racing team, joins us. And a quick reminder as well, it's not just the teams that are fighting for prizes from our partners at HyperX, the official periphery supplier of the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series, but you as well. If you're watching on RaceSpotTV on YouTube, click on the links in the description. We've got a giveaway for today, a streamer starter pack to get you started with everything you need to get underway with your streaming journey. And if you've been following through the course of the season, our Easter egg challenge prizes are confirmed. A wireless gaming headset, a mechanical gaming keyboard, and a gaming mouse as well. We'll show you that Easter egg one more time. Remember, you need to have been tracking them over the course of the season. That is not a face that you want to mess with. Again, those who know what I'm talking about will know what I'm talking about. Make sure to get entered for the Easter egg challenge to close off the HyperX GT Sprint Series. Moments away then from getting race 2 underway. Terry, oh, this is going to be fun.
Oh, this is going to be incredible. You see, you're going to see some really aggressive driving through here. I mean, I'm sitting here and I continuously am thinking about race 1, right? Where a lot of drivers on the mountain were fighting the car. They were fighting how to get back on the throttle. The hard right and left-handers there in that section of the track. To think that you're going to put the two race dominators right there in the back of the field, and you're going to say, hey, you got to drive through this thing. We're starting to grid now, so we're getting to that point. The anticipation's building. These drivers who were slower, that obviously finished a little bit further back in 20th or 15th on back, get to start up front. So the pace is going to control off of them. Now, what are they going to do with it? That's going to be different.
Not long to go for gridding. Let's run you down through the starting grid for the final 60 minutes of the HyperX GT Sprint Series. Chris Chatterton will be on the pole. He had difficulties in race 1. Can he keep it clean for race 2? V-Racers looking for some redemption, being the outside of the front row, while Westwood Racing Esports fighting for a championship start on the inside of row 2 with Jason Tails Racing. World of Sim Racing and the Rusty Spatchers 5th and 6th position. While back in 7th, it'll be the Ingersoll Rand 134, Quasar's Lamborghini alongside. Oblivion Racing's 346 in 9th with the XPD Emerald team through the top 10. Ludens Racing, Visceral Esports right behind them, row number 6. 5 Stars BMW will be inside of the 5-star Lamborghini. Let's see if those two can work together to find a way through some of the chaos in front. While T3 Motorsports by Miniti's Pro-Am car starts 15th. RSI by Butt Kicker alongside them, while Valorous M Sport and Visceral Esports share row 9. Through the inverted field, it's the 101, it's the 173 for T3 Motorsport by Maniti. Pure Sims, Megulars, Vector by RSR, Ingersoll through the top 24, while the final 3 cars will be Isaac Snyder's Vector by RSR, Christoph Karakis' RSR by Butt Kicker Machine, and the Quasar's Sim Racing 325. Well, it's a reverse grid race. Slower cars at the front, faster cars at the back, looking to carve their way through the field. Again, remember, when the green flag drops, we won't go then. The field's in control of our race starter in race control. The final 60 minutes of the HyperX GT Sprint Series are upon us from Mount Panorama. There aren't many better places to race. There aren't many better places to close off a season. We're racing at the mountain for the final time this season. Westwood Racing Esports get a monster of a launch down the inside. Oh! The Porsche goes around for the Rusty Spatchers. There's the chaos. We didn't even get to the mountain, and one of the T3 Motorsports cars is off and into the grass. Now, which one is that? Is that one of of the Pro-Am cars. I don't think it is. I think it's the 173. The rest of the field looks like they're getting through there somewhat safely. The Pro-Am cars at the front, the Am cars at the front going to be trying to scamper away from those behind.
And Hell Corner proved its name. It was hell going through there. Everybody wanted to get to the other side. And what's that country song? If you're going through hell, keep on going. Well, they went through hell, and some of them didn't get going. They were stopped on the track. Not a whole lot of damage. The significance there is there's a little rear damage on one of the pro car or the Pro-Am cars. Not a whole lot for the T3 Motorsports machine. Still battling on, but Victor in the 351 is starting to step just a little bit. Got through the mountain, is going to go downhill here. Not a bad start so far. I thought we were going to see a little bit more, as it says Josh Meyer has had an incident on track.
And that's the 273 Pro-Am car for T3 Motorsports by Maniti. We'll get you a points update as soon as we can, but that might mean that Westwood Racing Esports very much in control as things stand right now with their jump into second spot through the invert. 5-Star Motorsport, one of the bigger movers inside of the top 10. They gained 4 positions in their BMW to be in 6th behind them. It was T3 Motorsports' 101. Tim Matska found a route to get up into 12th position. That's +5 for him. As behind them, looks like Steen Ledger getting involved in the fight for Pure Sims. 5-Star getting on through. Ludens Racing boxing out the Quasar 225 will give the opportunity for the Valorous M Sport car to work on through. Here comes the freight train choo-chooing past Aaron Ackles in that Quasar 225. He lost about 3 positions in the blink of an eye. And there goes the 5-Star Lamborghini off the road, and I think in contact with a 145 Vistral BMW.
And those were the 2 drivers, Arjuna, that were fighting in race 1 that made contact coming through Murray's corner, or made contact through the chase, made contact again through Murray's corner, and down the main straight. They were battling it out. They made contact again. They started going into the corner. They got through the chase there, set up the run, set up the passing zones. We take a look at the replay here. They're going to make contact there. Pushed out wide, blocked a lot, pushed on here. Coming into Murray's, and just there was nobody's having it. Race 1, your tempers were already through the roof, right? You come to race 2, you're not going to get pushed around, and there didn't. So the blocking and then contact was just unavoidable on that one. You try to shoot out there, and it just wiped all 3 of them out right there.
It was Pure Sims that were getting a little bit bullied in that one, and they weren't going to, like Terry says, they weren't going to give it up easy. I think Steen Ledger's had to take a tow back to pit lane. Their day is done. The 173's had a moment as well. Rudy Nofel might have his day in the bin as well. So all sorts of drama, reverse inverted grid start. It's kind of what you'd expect here at Mount Panorama. We're going to get a look then at what happened to that T3 173. Now, he sees the chaos in front of him. Does he get mixed up in this, or is there something else that happens to him? He gets stopped in time, I tell you. Managed to find a way through the smoke. I don't think that's where the trouble started. Now, I wonder if something else has happened to him. Can also confirm the 273 is already withdrawn from the rest of this race. I think that basically confirms that Westwood Racing Esports, no matter what really is going to happen here, will hold on to the Pro-Am Championship, as now we get a look at a replay that's... Oh, never mind. I thought we were going to see something special. Oh, wait. The M Sport Valorous car has been off. Ludens Racing as well. It was on the exit of the chase. What is going on here to close off the season?
Chaos. That's what's happening to end the season. I believe coming from our producer here, that was a DQ.
Now, let's take a look. The DQ was for one of the... I forget the name of the team, sorry, I'm blanking right now. That's what happened with those 2 cars, just pushing very early in the race, side by side, ends in tears, I think, for both of them, unfortunately. The DQ was for a different car that was unrelated, I do believe. So Ludens, Valorous, they drop back. There's that 177 Audi, somehow doesn't have too much damage to his car. The M Sport Valorous car has come off a little bit worse in that tangle between the 2 of them. A bit of a train forming behind third. 1.5 seconds splits the top 2, then a further 1.5 back to the 333 as well. Then you've got about 2 seconds that runs all the way back to 8th position on track, where we find that T3 Motorsports by Maniti car. They made a habit of being able to carve their way up through the field. I think they're looking like Tim Matska's going to put that car in that position to do the very same thing. Look how much they're haranguing the back of that Oblivion racing car that's fighting for a championship and knows, let him go through, we've got bigger things to fight for.
And one of the comments said very messy racing today. The invert kind of threw a lot of these drivers off, and it threw me off big time because I didn't expect this. I didn't expect the 263 to come out and pull a 2.3 second lead over Westwood Racing Esports there in the 287. That was not what I thought I would have saw, or a 3 second gap or 4 second gap over V Racers at the moment, and it's gone. I mean, he's gone, and it reminds me of Bonnie Tyler, total eclipse of the heart, because the first race, 20th, bad start, like couldn't figure it out, and now he's turned around. He was a little bit lonely, but he decided to come around.
The Magyar's Porsche, the 212, has gone off the road, so the difficult debut for that outfit continues as they drop outside of the top 20. There comes a look to the inside of the World of Sim Racing car by Matska, who's up now to 5th and is trying to follow that 5-star BMW in front. Now, both of those teams, the 155, the 101, have their faster drivers in the car, so that's significant. Tristan Iglesias by no means slow. The same thing goes for the teammate for the 155, but just looks like Matska and Fritz are on another level, at least here today, as that 155 slots on past the 333 as they climb their way through Griffin's Bend on the run up into the cutting. Talked about how Chris Chatterton did not, well, let's put it mildly, struggled in race number 1. He's 2.6 seconds clear. Clean air can make a world of difference, it turns out.
Well, I don't want to say what I want to say because I think RaceSpot might mute me if I say it, but where did it come from? Where did this speed come from in the 263? And you're right, clean air, it makes all the difference in the world because you're not having to check up for somebody. You're not having to really pressure yourself. He's hustling that thing. It's 3.2 seconds right here as we take a look at a battle for the 6th place position. It's Victor Bros. I think I said that one right, in Oblivion Racing in the 346. This Lambo putting some pressure up here on these machines.
We need to correct ourselves as well. I think the points that we showed earlier were doing the calculations wrong. We're not going to be able to have those live points updates, but I can tell you that as it sits right now, it's 20 points between the World of Sim Racing and Team Oblivion Racing. There are some positions to be gained, there's some positions to be lost, so the championship there is on the line. In the other two categories, of course, championship basically decided by the retirement of the 273 in Pro-Am will give Westwood Racing Esports the championship, and then in the Pro it was already mathematically basically impossible for Pure Sims to have won the championship given where they finished in the field. So 3.3 now, the gap at the front for the 263, that Porsche stretching its legs now up to 3.5 as Chatterton really on a mission to redeem himself for race 1. 5 stars BMW now in pursuit of the 287. Tim Matska's going to try and get his way past on Nuno Costa in that V Racers 333 as they look to close off the season with a victory of their own. There's a look from the Lamborghini. Now is Costa going to give him the move? Yes, he is. That was very courteous. Wasn't alongside into the braking zone was the Lamborghini, but emerges on the run up the hill in front of that 333. Now, where is more of the action going on? 167, the 134, they're fighting for 15th and 16th positions all the way down in the mid-pack of the top 20. Then they're still side by side on the run into the cutting. Plenty of damage on that Mercedes and the front end as well.
Yeah, I don't want to be 2x2 there, but yeah, the Mercedes is beat up. A lot of front end damage, but you have a lot of wing damage back there on the driver behind. As we take a look at the 346, continuously putting the battle and the pressure on the 345 and the 351. Jason Tails Racing had a mediocre race 1, but you give some track position, you flip it a little bit, holding pace, very good pace in this early portion of the race. And Chris Chatterton just laid down a 2:04.94. Like, where was that in race number 1? Throwing down some very fast laps, but it looks at the Westwood Racing Esports driver. It's making some moves, but here comes the 5-star Motorsports driver, just passed for P2, is now 1 second back off the race lead as they continue to battle throughout this track. Arjuna, I don't think that we flipped it 100% yet here. There's a lot more positions that are going to be chased down from afar.
Oh yeah, I think we've got a battle for the lead between 5-star and Maniti as RSR by Butt Kicker's machine. Long way around on the run down into the chase, getting past that Lamborghini for 5-star Motorsports. Now, the 101 does have to dispatch of the 287 in pretty quick order here, because otherwise they're giving the opportunity for Maximilian Fritz to build up a buffer to be able to break out of the drafting range as well. And, well, is Westwood Racing Esports just yeah, they're just pulling over. They know they don't need to fight. I mean, on one hand, I get it. On one hand, I'm like, well, I want to see more fighting.
I don't think Westwood Racing wants to see that at all. I think they're very content. Team orders are probably very strict at this moment for that 287. What do you got to prove? You locked it. Like, you're there. Don't do nothing that's going to put yourself in a bad position or put yourself in a bad spot. T3 Motorsports has locked it. He really doesn't have to be driving this hard anyhow. You know, he wants to win. And I see that. What a way to go out. You get the championship. Virtually locked it up in race number 1. Go put on a smoke show, and he's putting it on. He's putting it on them as he is coming quick as they go down the mountain here.
Down to 0.6 of a second the gap. That BMW, compared to its somewhat more pedestrian pace in the first stint of race 1, it's been flipped on its head with the new driver with the inverted grid. That Eclipse Racing Team 263 car built that buffer. Now it's more significant to look at the gap between the 263 and the 287 when we think about the fight for the Pro-Am win here in this final race of the season. Already 13 minutes done, still a long way to go. No move just yet from the 5-star car. Is going to give that opportunity for the 101 to close on up. The 169 gets past Oblivion Racing inside of the overall top 10. Ingersoll's 134 gets in front of the 177 Vector by RSR car. You'd have to think this move from 5-star coming down into Griffin's once more. Look how close they are to the back end. Just got to time the run out of Hell Corner.
Yeah, timing the run here is going to be interesting. It's not going to make it work. Drive off for the Eclipse Racing team is going to be good. You'll go down the mountain straight here, and we'll work our way into Griffin's Bend. It's a very long way to get there. So the opportunity for the 5-star Motorsports driver to really set this up, to set the braking zone up going into this right-hander is not going to do it there. We'll go in Griffin's Bend. We'll work our way through the cutting and all the way up the mountain here. Not an opportunity to pass. So another sector of this track that he's allowing the 101 to get there, and now the 101's right on the back bumper.
Looks like 4 retirements: XPD, Ludens, Pure Sims, and that T3 Pro-Am machines all pulling out of the race, pulling out of the season, not finishing the way that they would have wanted. They'll be looking forward to what's on the horizon for this HyperX GT Sprint Series. What more they can hope to be looking forward to. That 263, excuse me, does look pretty impressive on pace. He's now pulled out a 3.8 second buffer to the 287 car in class, which is the gap to really be thinking about. Matska's on the back of Fritz, who's on the back of Chatterton, as down the hill they go once more. Nice wide arc being taken from the Eclipse Racing car, gets on the power nice and early to build that momentum, and that BMW might stall out now. Double toe being given to that Lamborghini. 3 different classes, 3 different manufacturers, excuse me, all fighting at the front of this field. Eclipse Racing Team might want to go out on top. The Lamborghini goes into the grass. They're 3 wide on the entry into the kink. Backing out is the Eclipse Porsche. Backing out is the Maniti Lamborghini. 5-star hits the front.
I'm telling you, that almost gave me a heart attack there. That comment earlier in the race that they almost had a new pair of britches on. I almost had to go change out of my good britches and put some shorts on or something, because going 3 wide right there, going into the chase, or trying to go into Murray's, that's dangerous territory. That's something you don't want to do. And they almost did it, but smart on the Eclipse Racing team to back out of it. T3 Motorsports said, I don't want no part of that either. As he's going to look to the to driver's right to try to make this pass. They're going to go into Griffin's Bend here.
Not much of a fight given by Maximilian Fritz. That's the realization from drivers at the top level that sometimes it's better to not fight too hard and to just wait, bide your time and get the move done. GT3 car's got a major update a couple of months ago. We'll talk more about that in a sec. The 169 slips on past the World of Sim Racing car. Now, Oblivion has got to get past not just Jason Tails Racing, but the World of Sim Racing car as well to really make the championship intriguing right now. But as it sits, it would be the World of Sim Racing car that would walk away with your GT3 AM championship win, even if World of Sim Racing drops down to where Oblivion is, and basically if they swap places, Jason Tails Racing still sandwiched by these two championship protagonists. It's still the direction of the World of Sim Racing team as Oblivion has a look to the inside of Skyline. They need a little bit more luck to go in their direction. Remember, we're clarifying what we've been saying today. Points are scored by class position, not by overall position. It makes things that much more intriguing, that much more tricky when you're doing the championship equation. Down the hill once more they go. T3 Motorsports have already built up an 0.8 of a second buffer at the front of the field. Fascinating race, gonna be more fun as we get within 10 minutes of our pit stop window.
Yeah, and for T3 Motorsports, playing simple, go have fun. You can have fun. You have nothing to lose. Go win. Go do what you got to do. But you look at the our Pro-Am class, you have to be on your toes. You have to get the best class finish possible. Overall is fantastic. You could say I finished third overall. Who cares? Where did you finish in your class? Because if the driver in front of you gets it, as we look here with Chris and P3 overall, he's leading his class as well, and he has a 3-car buffer before you go to your next class car with the Westwood Racing Esports team of the 287. A lot going on in this race, Arjuna. A lot happening in 42 minutes, 10 minutes, like you talked about before we open the pit window for the driver swap if they want it. This is getting my heart up, and we got a long way to go.
On board with the AM class battle as Vitor Bras searches for an opportunity. Maybe it comes in the form of the undercut, maybe it comes in the form of the overcut. Track position might be crucial. They've got a whole bunch of pro machines closing behind them. The two visceral BMWs, the 196, the 145 closing. Maybe that's the chance for Bras to find a way to get past Jason Tails, the opportunity to work his way past the World of Sim Racing machine as well. Through McPhillamy Park they go as they run themselves down into Skyline. Bit of a moment there for the Oblivion racing car. It would have been heart in mouth for those watching and supporting them as we got an issue for the Eclipse Racing team now. Where is that car? He's towed back to pit lane instantly. He has gotten out of the way. Now Chris Chatterton was doing a sterling job after the difficult race one. 4 seconds clear of the next Pro-Am car, and it's going to be down the hill potentially. He's already gone a little bit slower on the entry to the corner. Has he pancaked the wall earlier? He might have, because I think that was the recognition that his steering was done.
And that's where we've seen a lot of issues with that car, where you're coming down the hill, you think you can be closer to the wall, as you see here, a little bit off pace. You can hear a little sourness in the motor, touches just a tad bit, comes right here, gets a pancake coming up soon. That's a tough break for a driver that just came out and put on a clinic. Yeah, caught it there. And just even harder contact there. Knew that it was over from that moment and just couldn't control it anymore.
And that goes to what I was saying with this GT3 update a couple of months ago. These cars are much more aerodynamically efficient, and because of the way the tire works, you can go full throttle in places that maybe you're not in the real world, at least for the time being. And up the mountain through Bathurst, though, that's a section of complex where you're anyway usually flat out over the years here in iRacing. Maximum commitment, and unfortunately they're just turned in a bit early, really knocked down the wall, and that is a disappointing end to the season for the 263 in a race that was looking like it was going to go quite well for him. The RSR by Buttkicker car then looks to try and get up onto the overall podium as he hunts down the V-Racers 333. Already a 2.3 second gap has opened up between your leader and that second place BMW. Tim Matska again has managed to carve his way through the field, not for the first time, and certainly won't be for the last time.
Yeah, and for the the Pro-Am class, that's going to allow a lot tighter points, right? This is going to move up more as we take a look here at the RSR by butt kicker machine, the 167, all over the back bumper of the 333, and we saw this in race 1 where the 333 was, really able to be up front, and for Nuno Costa, he's doing the same thing that we saw earlier. Had issues when he got in the car for the first portion of race 1, or the second portion of race 1. Couldn't get it. Got the grass now. Understood the track. Understood what he had to do. Got the heat and the brakes and then the tires. Is really making it work as he continuously holds off the 169 here. But the battle for third is just going to continuously heat up.
Visceral Esports have gone and passed out 3 cars in just space of a couple of corners, and in fact the Westwood Racing Esports car, which now leads in Pro-Am, is being swarmed. There you see 2 wide, 2 rows deep. That Audi going to be sent out wide, and Oblivion Racing get pushed wide as well. Now that's crucial. Don't lose any positions in class, but they lose track of their fellow class competitors. That's what is more important when we look at the point situation. They're still running 4th in the AM category, but now 2 car splits them, and Jason Tails 345. RSR by butt kicker get up into 3rd on track by passing the 333. Pit window opens in 2 laps as here comes the move from Oblivion, looking to the inside of Westwood. Now, has the pace dropped off from that 287? I wonder if they've got a little bit of damage. They're getting forced wide. They lose another spot.
Yeah, it's just dropping. The 287 has dropped multiple positions here, pushing wide. Got pushed even further out there as Oblivion gets around, and so did Ingersoll. Ingersoll Rand, making a good run. The 134 was somebody we didn't talk about in the first race. Now in 11th, trying to get into a top 10 position if they can get around the 346. Well, a lot of interesting things happening here. We were talking about classes more due to the fact that the points are tighter. Each class, 2 classes out of the 3, have a championship battle here that has to take priority through the end of this one, because the T3 Motorsports machine of the 101, they're gone. There's nothing to talk about there. So this continuously builds as we go into, you said we agreed 2 to 3 laps before we open pit window here and put some tires on, get your driver change. It's going to pick up. It's picking up quick.
Should be open next time by, at least for these cars. Now for the leader, it might not be open because he is so far clear of the rest of the field as the Visceral car holds off World of Sim Racing. Now the second Visceral car will join the party, the 173, slides its way up into 8th position on the track. It's a busy time for many of these competitors. World of Sim Racing just has to stay out of trouble. It's as simple as that. Oblivion have a look to the inside of the Jason Tails racing car. They've got to do what they can to find positions in class. They're going to lose out potentially though to that 134, who will sweep the momentum around the outside of Hell Corner and will get himself in front of that white and pink Lamborghini. Plenty of action. Look at that train of cars that's forming down the mountain straight.
Absolutely, and this should be an eye-opener for Oblivion Racing as you see all the drivers in front of you. You got Jason Tails there, you got World of Sim Racing. They're in your line of sight. That's a perfect line that you can see. You can even see V-Racer in the 333. That machine is there. There's opportunity. There's opportunity to pass, but there's only opportunity to pass in so many parts of this racetrack. You don't want to mess yourself up in Sector 2. You want to set yourself up for a good Sector 3 to really get what you got. You look right here with Jelly Walters in the 5-star Motorsports machine, this 105, climbing the board even further up to 14th and overall a little bit further in class, trying to work up here to really make some momentum for, well, what is the end of this season and to propel yourself for the next season.
And while the season's coming to an end here for the HyperX IVRA GT Sprint Series, and indeed for the entirety of the IVRA suite of competitions, with the Club Sport Series and the Endurance Series already being in the books, it's going to be continually busy for VCO Esports. This coming week we've got the Spring Masters for the Esports Racing League as we head to Assetto Corsa Competizione. Make sure to stay tuned on social media for how this unique one-on-one format is going to work to help us pick where we're going to race VCO Esports across social media. The Ingersoll 134 car gets in front of Jason Tails Racing, now means that Oblivion again finds themselves directly behind a fellow class competitor, and with the pit window open, Oblivion gets out of the Hornet's Nest through the tricky pit entry and down to pit lane. Vitor Brass will hand that car over to his teammate. A good call to escape the action that was really happening in the mid-pack.
A really good call to undercut this pit stop, get it out of the way. Maybe you flip some track position, you get in front of some of these drivers. That the pace has fell off substantially. Juno, we went from where the pack he was racing was running 204s. Vince Peters is the only one that has stayed in the 204 from 6th on back. We have a 205 was the fastest, ran a 207. We've had about a 1 to 2 second drop off. So coming out here, putting some new boots on it, no fuel, you don't need it. So the times are going to pick up with the lower fuel cell in it. The rear end's going to want to plant more. You're going to have more downforce. You'll have more speed carrying down the straights through the centers of the corners. This is a good one. But Tim Matze up here, he ain't slowing down, son. 2037, the party's just started for the 101 up here.
He's on a different planet today. Isaac Snyder in the 172 car has, I think, just proven my point about how tricky pit road entry can be. I think he's taken a tumble on his way down to pit entry. Now, you'd expect Matska to go as long as possible. You wouldn't expect him to be one to pit early doors, that's for sure. Now, let's get a look at what happened. Yeah, you can see already damaged that car, but clearly tracking in a straight line. On the brakes,
Yikes.
goes deep, and yet there you go. And now watch for, I'm sure, what is about to be another 100-point turn as he tries to get that car spun around. Actually, he does a pretty good job, I gotta say. I knew it made you laugh.
I'm like a child, I'm telling you. That's classic. I had honestly forgot about that one in race 1. That just brought my mood back up to 100.
Matska, by the way, has already pitted. Interesting call for me in the 101, but maybe trying to get his teammate a bit of drive time. Looks like pit road's going to be somewhat busy. The Ingersoll 134 is on pit road. Behind him, the Westwood Racing Esports. I keep having to remind myself it's not Westworld Racing, it's Westwood Racing that's coming down to pit road. Vector's second car into the lane as well. Now I'm watching the lap times for World of Sim Racing and Jason Tails. 206.0 for the 351, 205.6 for Jason Tails. Those lap times, like you talk about the drop-off, I think it gives the opportunity for Oblivion to find their way on through with this pit stop cycle. I think they may just be able to do the jumperoni with this undercut.
I thought it was a perfect move. You know, whoever was in his ear singing pit, 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 pit. Perfect call, a perfect spot. You saw the window open right when they came down. They timed it to perfection. So much fall off. I mean, for a lot of these drivers, I just continuously looked up and down the board and was like, you have to make it work, and there has to be an opportunity. He saw his pace falling. The pace just continuously kept going down. A lot of these drivers were really fighting the car through the mountain. You'd get through the dipper right there. It was a lot of issues. You would see the back end want to kick out more. They couldn't really mash the throttle. They couldn't plan it as hard as they could. The turn wasn't really working for them. These cars are notorious for wanting to break loose in the rear through part of these corners, and especially here with how tight they are. And for him to jump, Oblivion, I believe, they're sitting 14th at the moment. It's an opportunity, as a lot of these other drivers are going to have to come down to the pits to really make a splash, but are they going to give up on the back end of Juna? That's the real portion. What are they going to give up at the end of this race?
So almost halfway through the race, about halfway through the pit window as well. V-Racers are going to stay out there, as you'd suspect, doing quite well with the Visceral duo right behind them. Now, does anyone from that second pack of AM cars box, the 351, the 345, those are the ones to think about. One comes in, both come in. So 2 laps of undercut for the Team Oblivion Lamborghini. The 346 now might have an opportunity. Through the forest elbow comes Vitor Bra. He's another driver doing the double duty, using the exemption for today's race, that you don't have to use two different drivers. You just have to have a minimum 30-second pit stop time. 34 seconds was the time for Team Oblivion. A little bit longer than maybe was really necessary for him. Jason Tails Racing doing their driver swap around, as well as the World of Sim Racing. The pit time drops from the left side of your screen, but I'll keep you updated as to when they drop and roll from pit lane, because already up to speed, already got those tires back to where they need to be is the white and pink Lamborghini that is coming through the final corner as we still wait for the 351 to drop. He's off and rolling now and has got a short run to get off the button. World of Sim Racing back out onto track. Again, the Jason Tails Racing car, though, seems to be doing a full 60-second service. So Oblivion gain 1 spot in class. It's not enough in the championship mix.
No, not enough, but still a good flop. You know, he was 15th when he came down pit lane right there, and net gain of 4. You know, you're up to 11th. You're 3rd in class, right? Smart move. I don't believe when the 333 pits that you're going to see a jump between them. You know, you're not going to see the 346 jump up there and take it. I don't believe you'll see World of Sim Racing jump up and take it. They should be able to get off and be clear where they're at. But a lot's going to happen over the next 28 minutes in this race. And not a whole lot of laps, as obviously we're throwing 2-minute lap times down. If my math's correct, that's about 13, 14 laps. It's going to happen around this racetrack, as you see now. On pit lane is the 155, the 169's down as well, and a couple others are going to drop. Here comes the 333 of V-Racers. Yep,
down to pit lane. It will be the Visceral duo that are the last to box then, with potentially... Oh, that's a lap down car vector by RSR, excuse me. Still trundling around. Believe that's Teasters in the 172 that is in 18th position. So V-Racers into the box as Nuno Costa will hand responsibility for the final 28 odd minutes over to Marco Silva. Pace from Silva was blistering in race 1. Not expecting anything different in the second race of the afternoon as we get ready to close out its HyperX GT Sprint Series. V-Racer still yet to roll. Might be closer with the World of Sim Racing team than I thought it would be, who are already coming through the final corner. Marco Silva now drops and goes. There is the 351. Silva's already off of the button, already off of the lane. He's back up to speed. It's only about 5 seconds clear though, so never say never. If Saul Flores in that World of Sim Racing car has got some tempo and some rhythm, he might be able to boogie his way up to the front as the 173 slides on past. V-Racers will now just sit in the draft and try and work his way forward. Emil Vimbo in that Valorous M Sport Apollo machine has unfortunately retired from this race. Looked like a technical issue for him, and oh no, it's deja vu. V-Racers again, cold tires, new driver, slapped the wall hard and through the cutting.
Yeah, and that was the point I was about to bring, because we saw Marco Silva come into the chat and talk about he got the wall, got the meatball. It comes out again, lap 1, cold tires, new driver, has had a bit of a rest. Has had a bit of a rest here with almost a full hour of not being in this car. I believe he got a couple laps in the warm-up there, but didn't get it. 145 comes in, and well, I mean, if we do what you said, and Justin Bieber said it best, you know, we'll never say never, we'll fight for forever. Can V-Racer go? Because the World of Sim Racing team has an opportunity now to really make a charge, depending on the damage of that 333.
Yeah, I'm not sure how significant it is. The 196 Visceral Esports car that Robin Noborg was behind the wheel of, I believe, has also made an issue on had an issue on the entry to pit lane. Like I said, it's tricky. It is very, very tricky. Fortunately, I've never been caught out by pit entry. I've just forgotten to pit leading a Bathurst 12 hours before. That's a clumsy mistake to make. Gap for the race lead is a full 9, almost 10 seconds now, as Iglesias is really in control of this race. The Visceral 145 will get out in 4th in the field. The 196, by virtue of their slight loss on pit entry, will drop actually even behind the likes of the World of Sim Racing car. So one mistake on pit entry, you can really lose a whole bunch of time, and might even lose out to the 5-star Lamborghini, who are coming with a Head of steam already built up with 25 minutes left in the race, 25 minutes left in the season. It was close for the world of sim racing, close with Oblivion. As stands right now, it's going to take an almighty intervention from God for Oblivion Racing to become your AM champions.
I wouldn't count them out. I still would not count them out. Here, they're sitting 10th overall, 3rd in class. But this race isn't over. We've seen a lot of mistakes happen up in the mountain. You know, that portion of this track, a lot of speed, a lot of turns, a lot of opportunities for mistake. You know, you can't count this race out. As they say in the South, you can't count your chickens before they hatch. Well, you can't count this race over to that checkered flag waves. And for Oblivion, it's simple. That 346 has to be perfect each lap on this track. We're coming to 12 to go, if my math once again is correct, with the 2 minutes lap times with 23 to go. You can't make a mistake. V-Racer just did smack the wall. The 351 slower pit stop than what we saw. It could also have an issue as well because the 134 is catching them. They're 0.7 of a second back in there. This battle could continuously progress throughout this race. What a series! What a marvelous race! Both races.
See if that V-Racer car starts to feel the heat from World of Sim Racing. That gap down to 3 and a bit seconds. Of course, Marco Silva having slapped the wall down. Not sure if that 333 is maybe handling as one would expect. So, other than the 2 issues that we had on pit lane here today, relatively clean. Robin Noborg might be feeling a little bit sheepish about what he did to close out what was an impressive stint, because all that hard work, well, he's now made Albin Spets have to work from behind. He's 1.8 back from the Ingersoll 134, a further about 5 seconds back from Marco Silva in that V-Racer car, so a lot of work for him to do. And we're not going to talk much more about C3 Motorsports by Maniti because Tristan Iglesias is now 11 seconds clear. Incredible stuff. You start down in 19th position, you find yourself to the front, and then you run away from the field. That is a masterclass in reverse grid inverted GT sprint style racing.
I mean, we opened the show. Man, we opened the show with us talking about what happened at Charlotte at the Roval. Invert the field, comes through the field, takes it, and goes. And it's challenging there, but it's more challenging here because, well, theoretically, you have about 5 passing zones that you really can make work on your behalf. I mean, you can 7, 8, 9, you have a passing zone going into 10. There's no passing zones between 11 all the way to about 17. You can't really go there, but coming through Forest Elbow, you can set one up there. And then you set one in 20. You can set one up coming out of 22, going into 23, but nothing really else can be set. You don't want to make the pass in turn 1 in Hell's Corner. It's a horrible place to pass because, well, we've seen some people go through hell there. They've driven through the infield portion of this track. As you look here, these drivers coming out of Murray were on board with these drivers continuously fighting for 3rd place. The battles are limitless here at this track, as these 2 drivers are just putting on a spectacle for all of these fans that are watching to see.
It's the battle for 3rd position as Benjamin Frigero comes under pressure from Boujouin Kuster. It's RSR by Butt Kicker versus the Visceral Esports team. That RSR by Butt Kicker car, the biggest mover so far, tries to hold on to the podium. That's a bit of a lunge from the BMW, and they'll rub doors on the exit as they climb their way up to the cutting, but the BMW was through, saw an opportunity, sent it to the inside. That's a move Daniel Ricciardo would have been proud of.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of people out there that if I about jumped out of my seat. I really thought we were wrecking. I thought for sure that would have been a wreck at the moment. When we go back here to the 351 of the World of Sim Racing machine, right on the back bumper of the 134, also getting a challenge from the 196 of the Visceral Esports machine, 0.3 of a second forward, 0.3 of a second behind. Is going to give that as now the 134 stretches it to about a half a second there. So a lot more battles. Almost made some contact there off that corner as we're going down. We're going downhill now.
Any corner is a passing opportunity if you're brave enough. I'm sure there's some racing driver at some point that has said that. It's not true, don't get me wrong, but again, I'm sure that's the mindset for some of these drivers. As now looking 12th on back as the Quasar 225 sees mirrors filled by RSR machines, one red, one green, two Pro cars stacked up behind the Pro-Am machine into the final 20 minutes of the race, the final 20 minutes of the season. The Mercedes pops out and now might tow its sister car on through as well, punches the hole in the air for that green Mercedes with plenty of damage to the front. There goes the 167, there goes the 171 as well, assisted by Aaron Ackles in at 225. We'll recap what we've got on the horizon for the summer, by the way, because of course, while IVRA takes a breath, there's plenty of stuff still going on in the world of VCO. I mentioned that this Wednesday at 7 p.m. CEST on the VCO esports channels, you can join us for the Spring Masters of the Esports Racing League. Once that's wrapped up though, then we get underway for the Summer Cup, which should be fun as well. We bring teams from around the sim racing universe together. We pit them across different platforms, different cars, different tracks. We see who is the undisputed king. So far, it's Team Redline that is very much asserting their dominance as the best as the 196 gets on past the 134. Team Redline also won the VCO Infinity 24-hour event that we had. It wasn't technically a 24-hour race. It was 24 individual races in 24 hours. That was a blast and so much positive feedback from the drivers and our viewers. When will we do that again? Well, hopefully sooner rather than later. Of course, as well, the VCO Grand Slams roll on. We've already had the first of those in 2022, the Nürburgring 24 Hours, where a RaceSpotTV and Radio Show Limited teaming up to bring you uninterrupted coverage of all 24 hours. June 18th, we head to upstate New York for the 6 hours of Watkins Glen. Should be a treat. This time it's just LMP2 and the GTDs, these GT3 cars, albeit under a different moniker. We'll see if Team Redline can repeat their success of 12 months ago when they swept all three of the classes that we had, including the GTE as well. Before that, though, we've got some new competitions coming to VCO Esports. The Precision Racing League is delighted to partner up with us here at RaceSpotTV and VCO for the multitude of competitions that they've got. Sunday through Thursday, there is some sort of a race going on every single day. So make sure to stay involved for that to find out what you will be able to watch here on the VCO Esports channels. Plenty of things to be looking forward to around the sim racing universe as well. I'm pretty sure we'll get the Racing Line TCR series starting up again in probably a couple of weeks' time. So on Monday afternoons, at least here in the US, Monday evenings, I would guess in Europe, always something to watch here on VCO Esports. So if you're not already following us on the Twitch channel, do make sure you get following us as soon as you can. 14 seconds at the front as now it's a move from Visceral Esports' 196 to get on past the 333 V-Racers car, which even if it's got some damage, is holding on quite well in the battle with the World of Sim Racing car. Remember, that's the battle for the GT3 AM race win.
Yeah, it has a lot of pace here, and we're looking at the gap between them, still 0.7 of a second if I'm reading this one correctly. They're right there. They're sandwiched to one another. You can see them in the same frame. We understand, you know, this battle is going to continuously go. We're down to 16 minutes in the season finale, and this has been just one of the coolest races I've ever had the opportunity to partake in. This has been fun to see a 23 race road course be brought to this series and to see that it's going to be the championship run. You put your most challenging race last, it just proves that, hey, your best drivers all season long, which has been the 101, the T3 Motorsports machine has just been in a class of its own, and it's 14 seconds now. But to see your championship right here between the 333 and the 351, mixing it in within one another, and now Oblivion's making his way. He's 10th overall, Arjuna. I told you this race isn't over.
The race isn't over. I think the championship, though, is very unlikely that we'll see any sort of a swap around there. As it stands right now between the World of Sim Racing and Team Oblivion, it's 10 points, so it's closer than it was before, but again, never trust a commentator's math, but I guess I'm making everyone trust my math. The difference between second and third position is just 9 points. So really, Oblivion, well, you got this mouth-watering scenario in which World of Sim Racing finishes second, Oblivion wins the race, which they, I guess, technically be tied on points. But yeah, I think right now it's looking very, very unlikely unless things are going to change around. That V-Racers car, though, is going to get closer and closer to being feeling that pressure from that World of Sim Racing BMW behind as the 134 Audi tries to have a look. Oh, World of Sim Racing up to the wall. Oh, I think they got away with that one. But there was a nervy moment for the 351.
Tried to tell you. I don't want to jinx it, but there's a scenario out there where the 351 makes a mistake. He has not made a mistake just yet, but you see Oblivion in the sights. He's starting to catch coming up through the mountain. He's making a run. He's understanding that he's got to go. I mean, you got 13 minutes left on the season in the race. Let's say that the 346 goes up, catches the 351. 351 falls back to third. The 333 gets caught. You have a two-position swap if something was to happen here as we take a look at this amazing camera shot brought to you by our producer, Ryan Bauer, just bringing us all the great angles of this track. Brings it to life and puts it in your home as the rear end starting to step out there on that machine. The 351 is loose.
It's close. It is. Flirting with disaster is that 351 right now, and that Oblivion car now needs to hope that the Lamborghini and the Mercedes behind him don't cost him too much in terms of time. Those are two pro machines closing from behind with just 13 minutes left on the clock. We're probably looking at 7 laps left for these drivers. It all depends on what happens with Tristan Iglesias, who's already started the climb up the mountain again. So I would assume we're looking at 7 laps in this race. And to close out the season, it might be a blockbuster finish. Again, confirmation, T3 Motorsports by Maniti in the 101 Pro car that leads the race, basically confirming their status as victors in the championship, going back-to-back after winning in the fall as well. Westwood Racing Esports taking full advantage of the retirement for the T3 Motorsports by Maniti, a 273 car that came into this race just 6 points adrift from the 287 Audi, but survival should be enough for Westwood Racing Esports to grab a championship win. And then in GT3M, it is still close, but it's looking like it's swinging direction of the World of Sim Racing team. 17 seconds at the front of the field. What fuel have they put into that Tristan Iglesias car? He put in the fastest lap of the race last time by a 2:03.614, and that's even with the track temperatures seemingly going up. It's 33 degrees Celsius here in Mount Panorama.
They might have pulled the Michael Waltrip strategy and put some jet fuel in that darn thing, because he's gone. Not just gone, but just smoking them. And we'll see what he puts down lap time here. Is he going to come across this time? Goes through Murray's down the main straight, crosses the line. We'll see if it was faster than the 2:03.61. And
I mean, consistency. It was a 6:13 to the 6:14 last time around. So within a thousandth of a second, that faster. Is metronomic. That is remarkable. So good way for them to close off the season. We focus back on this smorgasbord of entertainment. Rune Jansen in that 5-star 105 Lamborghini, tucked up behind the Oblivion machine. Only 1 second back from the World of Sim Racing car. Now, there's the little bit of a defensive look from Vitor Bras as he tries to get the message to the 105 that, look, I'm fighting for a championship. Do not cost me time here. And that the car behind might be his best friend right now, because well, as that Mercedes is going to say, no, I'm getting on past. I don't want to be so patient. Even if Vitor doesn't have the speed to catch Saul Flores in front of him, maybe you use these pro cars to try and close up and to try and make the move happen. I think sometimes that is a wise move. If you can follow close enough to the car in front, there might be an opportunity that presents itself.
No, I agree, and this could be the opportunity that a lot of these drivers are looking for, because V-Racers gets past there. It puts 351, the 333, and the 346 all together. You know, there's nothing separating them. There are a lot of points on the line. Does the 333 hold the World of Sim Racing team up? That could bring into another challenge. It depends on, he's been very defensive in this race after having contact with the wall. How defensive does he get? Which line is he going to take? If he blocks a couple times, that pulls Oblivion in, and it sets up a very heavy passing zone as there's a car in the wall in my ear.
I think I heard that as well, but it might just be a brush. I don't know if it's necessarily such a big deal. You hear a lot, the amount of times that these cars really flirt with disaster and really brush up against the wall. It can get somewhat disconcerting, that's for sure. Oblivion going on the defense because the 167 got a great launch off the corner. The Michael Le Mans powered RSR by butt kicker car just doesn't have the top end grunt though. Maybe it's different downforce configurations that are holding up that 167 now. He might have a lunge on the run into the chase as V-Racers feel the pressure from World of Sim Racing behind them. Oblivion seems to have held off the 167 as they try to close on this group in front of them, but it might come down to this. If World of Sim Racing can put a car in class between them and Oblivion, you fancy their chances coming to 5 laps to go, with 8.5 minutes left on the board. Oblivion gets squeezed, but the RSR by butt kicker Mercedes gets on through. Now they've got to follow, they've got to hope that Le Mans is their best friend.
Yeah, they gotta hope something happens. You said that we agree that's the top end speed on that on the 167 just doesn't seem to be there. You see the flashing lights there by Team Oblivion. I don't think he was a big fan of that one, because of the fact that now you have a battle for class here between World of Sim and V-Racer. V-Racer's going to let him go. Let him go as they go up the hill. This is tricky. This is very tricky, because now this automatically would virtually eliminate Oblivion if it stays the same way, because now he's starting to get a run from the 105 back here.
It's now a 20-point advantage the World of Sim Racing team has over the Oblivion 346. Now Vito Brass has 4.5 laps to try and figure out something to do to get to the end of this race and to grab the championship, to have a chat with us to close out the season. The World of Sim Racing will try and pull away from the 333. They'll hope that the RSI by butt kicker car might even hold up the Oblivion Racing team as down the hill through the dipper they throw themselves once more. 7 and a bit minutes left on the clock. Your leader, Tristan Iglesias, has already crossed the line now as he continues to just punch in faster lap after faster lap. I think we are confirmed that it is going to be 4 laps to go. Shouldn't be too much drama there. So 4 opportunities for the Oblivion Racing team to try and work their way through not 1, but 2, not 3, not 2, excuse me, but 3 different cars. Find the championship waiting on the other side for them. I think Saul Flores, though, knows that, and he's already starting to build the buffer. About 6 car lengths between him and the 333.
Yeah, and I think it's over for Oblivion here. The 351. Very not patient at all. There. Oh, goodness.
Now that's opened the door for Oblivion to try and get the move done on the V-Racer car. Another courteous move. It's now down to a 11-point gap between the two of them. Whoever wins the race in GT3M will win the championship. It is as simple as that. 898 for the World of Sim Racing team, 885 for Team Oblivion. So, excuse me, it's 13 points the difference, but given it's a 10-point swing in either direction, the math is simple when it comes to that. V-Racers now under fire from the 5-star Motorsports Lamborghini. The gap between the 351 and the 346, 1.3 seconds, 6 minutes left to go.
Yeah, and right now for Oblivion, he's got to hope for a mistake from the World of Sim Racing team of the 351. No mistake, no catch. I think it's as simple as that. If the 351 continues to do what the car's been doing for the entirety of this race so far, that BMW is going to lock this championship up in the class. and it's over. But right now, we're going to keep on this battle because it's a 20-second gap for P1. It's over there. That race is done and done. But you come through these corners. Now you've got the 167, the RSR by Butt Kicker machine all over the back bumper of that 351. Can we see a battle or a mistake out of that machine?
The RSR by Butt Kicker car has to be clean through this pass as he gets the toe on the Conrad straight, pulling bit by bit on that BMW, but again, the top end grunt's just not there. The slight damage that he's got to the front maybe acting as a bit of a parachute down the straightaways, but look at the run that he gets through the corners. Clearly has got a lot of mechanical grip through those slower speed corners. We'll have a look to the inside through the final corner. Backs out of it for now. Gap between World of Sim Racing and RSR still steady at 1.3 seconds. Oblivion comfortable with no real pressure behind them. There's the dive. Now, does that cost the World of Sim Racing time as they try and get onto the power? Yes, it does. The gap's down to 0.7 of a second.
Yeah, now you think that Oblivion, it's full. He has the speed. He got slowed up from the initial jump whenever he let the RSR by Butt Kicker machine by because the top end speed, the grunt speed's not there for that 167. Corner speed's fine. But Victor is absolutely putting it on the line. You've heard him get back to the throttle quicker than we've heard him get back to the throttle earlier. He's rolling the corner harder. He's charging. This is the battle.
The championship comes down to the final 3.5 minutes of the season. It's been a long road to get here. 11 and a bit odd hours of racing action. Pressure's on for Vita Brass, who's been on solo duty today, has very much had to keep his stamina up there. Look at him, that run down into Skyline. He's clearly got the bit between his teeth. The impetus is there to fight for the championship. Down through the dipper once more they go. That Mercedes has run away. No draft being fed to the 351. A good exit required for that 346.
This is what dreams are made of. I believe it was the Lizzie McGuire movie where the song came from, and did you ever think you'd hear that reference on a race like this? But no, probably not. This is dreams. This is you're winning the championship for your team, for yourself. Everybody around you's watching this race going, come on, get us to the win. You've held the lead in class for a while now. You had to battle the 333. You took it. You went up there and you made the pass happen. Hold the 346 off for 2 minutes. That's all you got to do as they come through here. They're going to go through Murray's corner. Can Oblivion get him? He's shown speed, but he's got to show just a tick more through the mountain.
That's 2 minutes on the clock, but it's going to be 2 laps by virtue of how far in front of the field the 101 car is. So really, it's about 4 minutes and 10 seconds that Saul Flores has got to absorb this pressure. He's got to be the sponge. He's got to work himself up through the mountain just 2 more times without any sort of a mistake. The V-Racers 333 sliding back in the gap, holding up the 5-star Motorsport Lamborghini as well. That's what Oblivion will want to see. No interruptions. It's one-on-one. Oblivion versus World of Sim Racing for the GT3 AM Championship. T3 Motorsports by Maniti's 101 car through the chase for the penultimate time as they get ready to take the white flag. It's a dominant performance to close off the campaign as they look to take their 7th win in 12 races in this 2022 spring season in the HyperX GT Sprint Series. 1 more lap of utter perfection for Tristan Iglesias, who has been punching in consistent laps, fastest lap after fastest lap, to be at the front of this field. Back in the GT3 AM battle though, it's 0.6 of a second that splits those 2 cars. Opens up slightly. Did Oblivion make a mistake? They're going backwards in the field, through the elbow. Oh, they're slow. They must have hit the wall. The championship over in the blink of an eye.
Dang. Dang. He had it. He was there. He could see it. Pushed a little too hard. It did catch the wall there just a tad bit. Just a little too wide going in, and now he's got to stop the bleeding because the 333 is going to look to the outside in the chase. not going to be able to do this here. They're going to come down here to Murray's corner. The 333 is going to lose a spot here. That's going to be the 105 of the 5-Star Motorsports team. What a crushing and heartbreaking way to end it right there as they come to their white flag of this event.
Time expires, it's official. This lap is the final lap. Just pushing that little bit too much over the limit. That's what championships are about, though. Leaving it out there and pushing for all you are worth. The GT3 AM honors, though, will go, if they can survive, to the World of Sim Racing team. Through the final corner comes the T3 Motorsports by Maniti team, though. What a second stint. I mean, the plaudits go to Tim Matska for that first stint to build the advantage. But Tristan Iglesias, after a slightly shaky start to race number 1, has not looked back. He has been a machine to close out this season.
Yeah, he has. He didn't look back. They came into pit lane for the driver swap with an 11-second gap, and Tristan came in and said, "No problem, brother." Comes through the chase, and he put it on him like Ja Rule did. Gone. 23 seconds is the gap, and he's already celebrating. He knows he's going to win it, Arjuna.
7 wins in 12 races, a remarkable streak for T3 Motorsports by Maniti. They win the Pro category in the HyperX GT3 Sprint Series in the spring, defending the championship. They won in the fall. A dominant performance from that new partnership between the established Maniti Sim Racing team and the T3 Motorsports Real World team. That looks like it was Ronnie Nunez, though, in the 173 that lost it through the chase to maybe put a slight damper on the celebrations for at least Ronnie Nunez in the T3 Motorsports camp. He will still come across the line in 5th position. What a race number 2. Pro-Am honors will go the way of Westwood Racing, finishing down in 15th, yes, but with the retirement from the 273 T3 Motorsport car on lap 1, turn number 1, it was a country drive on a Sunday for the Westwood Racing esports team. GT3 AM, well, Oblivion Racing tried as much as they could, but at the closing stages, the World of Sim Racing emerged victorious in the race and the championship as well. It came down to those very final laps. You can't ask for much more in a championship fight. Bathurst cooked up a treat for us to close off the IVRA 2021-2022 suite of competitions.
They sure did. And this was an absolute honor to be able to come out here and call this race. And I know the other two would have loved to be here, but they've got some real world obligations to do. But to see this race up close and personal, and to see a championship fight come down to the final lap and pushing it to the limit for Oblivion, what a heck of a drive.
Grab a look then at our race results, because Tristan Iglesias, well, 24 seconds clear. What a dominant display it was from him. The 8 positions gained really were all about the job that Tim Matska did, but the clean air pace from Iglesias was something to behold. Niels Baukij brings the 5-Star Motorsports BMW across the line in second, not far clear of Boudouin Kuster in the Visceral Esports 145. A man on a mission, while Benjamin Frigero completes the top 4. Ronnie Nunez loses it on the final lap, but he still finishes inside of the top 5. The second of the Visceral cars, with the pit stop error dropping down to 6th, is still a good finish for them. Ingersoll's Rans 134 7th, with the RSR by Buttkicker 167 down in 8th. And then in front of the GT3 Pro-Ams, it's your GT3 AM race winner and your championship winner. The World of Sim Racing team takes home 9th to close off the year. Vito Brass for the Oblivion Racing team did all he could, but an issue on the penultimate lap dropped him out of the fight. He finishes inside of the top 10. 5-Star Motorsports as 105 finishes in 11th, with V Racers in 12th. The Vector by RSR 171 in 13th. Quasar, the winners in Pro-Am to close off the year for Aaron Ackles in 14th. Westwood Racing Esports, though, second in class, good enough for the championship for them. The Rusty Spatulas behind them, with the Jason Tails Racing again on a slightly different pit stop call, dropping down to 17th. Only one car, one lap down. That was the Vector by RSR Niels Tiester's machine, while Emil Bimbo had a rather dramatic end to the race. We said that he disconnected. It was more dramatic than that. His PC fell down, and that is why he finishes 19th despite showing some impressive pace. the Meguiar's Team 212 Porsche on their debut, really not enjoying the best of luck, but they'll be looking to build on this in the future. Chris Chatterton started at the front of the field. Unfortunately, an incident for him drops him down to 21st, with XPD, Ludens Racing, Pure Sims, and T3 Motorsports through the 25 that took to the field for the final time this season. What a race it was. What a race to close off the season as well. We'll wait for the opportunity to talk with your championship winners, because that is going to be something fun. We'll celebrate the end of another racing season, and we'll look forward to what lies ahead for us through the course of this IVRA suite of competitions. It will be a well-earned summer off, I think, for the organizers. They pull very, very long hours with some of the endurance club sport races. Then they've got these GT sprints, a club cup as well. Some of the team behind the scenes work on the 24-hour Neo competitions as well. It's a busy time for endurance racing in the winter, during the summer, to quote someone who was trying to insult someone but has really become more of a meme comment. It's time for sim racers to go and touch some grass, Terry.
Yeah, it's time to have some fun. I mean, for a lot of these drivers that came out here this afternoon and all season long, put it out on the line, it came down to what something I didn't imagine that it would come down to, of 2 laps of putting it all on the line, going full throttle where you can, and just leaving every piece of rubber on the racetrack this afternoon. This track started green. This track was green from the start, and now look at it. It's rubbered in. We're looking at shots around the corners here. There's a lot of rubber going in here. It's hotter. It was a tough, grueling 2 hours of racing. It was tough and grueling for me. This is one of the longest races I've done at a very long track. So I could just imagine turning laps around here and not sweating. And I think I've gained a couple pounds because I've been eating this entire time.
Well, it sounds like some of these people are going to gain some weight with the celebrations afterwards, some champagne and all that entails. The caviar is going to be broken out. You'd have to assume so. We're waiting, though, for these teams, these drivers to come and join us. Of course, we talked to the 101. We talked to Tim Matska after race 1. We talked to the Oblivion Racing team. We heard from them about their hopes for what lay ahead. It was a fun race. It was a fun way to close out the season. I don't think we're going to get too many of the champions in for a chat, to be honest. So instead of that, why don't we drag in a man that was very, very busy today, all by himself in that Quasar 225. Aaron Ackles, it was a difficult race 1, but you made up for it in race 2 with a victory to close out the season. Talk to us about how difficult it was for you to be all by yourself out there for 2 hours of action.
Oh, it's just the nature of Bathurst. It was just a lot of fun to bring the car home, maximize as many points as we could, and come home with a good finish. Hopefully the championship will go in our favor a little bit. I don't know what we are at with Westwood, but we'll see.
Well, I've got points in front of me. You will, if I've got this correctly, you will finish actually in, I want to say 3rd, but I don't trust my own sheet right now. I think you guys will finish on 888 points behind the T3 Motorsports 278 that will have 896. Westwood Racing will have the 915. So unfortunately not the championship, but looking back on the year, looking back on, Quasar's entries into all the IVRA competitions, what's been the story of the winter for you guys?
Bad luck, more than anything else. Good running, good car sets and whatnot. Just really bad luck and poor timing at times, but it's good to finally finish off on a high note.
And what's the plan for the summer then, as you get set for another year and winter of IVRA competitions? Anything in particular planned in the sim racing universe?
Well, hopefully we can get Le Mans this year, but we're looking into branching out to other things as well. Maybe some GT4, maybe even some TCR. We'll see what happens. See who's interested.
Well, plenty of intrigue with some new TCR cars that have been added recently. Congratulations on the win, Aaron, and I'll go off and enjoy a well-earned little break from sim racing, I'm sure.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for everything. It was a great season.
Aaron Ackles in the 225 wins to close off his season. Now let's chat with a championship winner, a man who was a machine in the second half of race number 2. Tristan Iglesias joins us for the T3 Motorsports by Maniti crew. And Tristan, it's 7 wins in 12 races for you guys. But more importantly, it's back-to-back championships in this GT3 category that you guys have focused on for so long. This must be the result of so much hard work, not just from you and Tim, but everyone behind the scenes as well.
Oh yeah, hello guys. And yeah, definitely it's so much work behind this, and yeah, we're all really happy that this season went great. We struggled a bit through the middle rounds. Round 3 and 4 weren't as good as we hoped it to be, but yeah, in all, it was pretty good, I would say. So yeah, we're all really happy.
Talk to us about race 1. What happened there? It did seem as though you were I don't know if you were struggling or being patient, but it did seem like you were biding your time for something.
Yeah, at the start I had some problems with the balance of the car. It was set up a bit too aggressive and had to be really careful at the top of the mountain, because otherwise the reel was a bit twitchy, and yeah, had to be really careful, because yeah, I had a couple of moments there and I didn't want to end up in the wall, so better to stay there behind P3 and chill until the pit stop. But yeah.
And what's next for you guys, Tristan? I mean, all the endurance stuff is wrapped up. Of course, we've got VCO Grand Slams, the iRacing special events still left in this summer. But what are you guys looking at on your schedule for the rest of the year before we pick up IVRA competition again?
Well, we're all looking forward to a bit of a break now, a bit of a summer break. There's like a month until the next iRacing special event, which is Watkins 6 Hour. And we're really looking forward to that as well. But yeah, now we have a few weeks to renew energies and rest a bit. And yeah, we're all really looking forward to next seasons of IVRA and other endurance competitions.
All right, well, Tristan, we'll let you go and celebrate. Give our congratulations to the entire team, because it really was a team effort. You guys have earned this one, back-to-back champions in the HyperX GT Sprint Series.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Tristan Iglesias will wrap up our post-race interviews then. And Terry, I mean, let's reflect on the schedule. Let's reflect on where we've been and what a season it's been. 12 rounds of this championship across of the fall and the winter. And ultimately, it's one team that have emerged victorious across from October through to May. It's taken us around the world, some of the best tracks that you can find. And I think it was a fun way to close things out here at Mount Panorama.
Oh, it was absolutely just a phenomenal race to end. My first time getting to call Bathurst, and I hope next time it's 12 hours of Bathurst for iRacing's special event that we do out here. Would love to get more into this endurance side. It was an absolute pleasure working with you again. We worked together on the NASCAR side, but to do it in a form like this, it's not normal that a guy with a mullet gets to come out and call one of these very, very cool events.
It's going to be it, though, for the IVRA competitions. The Club Cup, the Club Sport Series, the Endurance Series, all wrapped up, and now we have new champions for the IVRA GT Sprint Series. On behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, we thank you for your company over the course of the winter. It's time to hibernate until we do this once more in the fall of 2022. For Ryan Bauer behind the scenes, for Dougie Beard providing our cameras for today's action, my name is Arjuna Kankipati, alongside with Terry Radford, as we bid you farewell from the mountain. 3 new champions in IVRA competition. What will happen when we do it all over again?